sharing this with the world through YouTube on our MEM channel. The other thing I'm hoping to do is to have you guys present, or at least have posters for our industry night. So we're right now looking at February 19th for industry night. We've got a speaker, SAI is going to be there, right? Power Systems. We have a venue. We have basically a tentative date. I haven't got the speaker confirmed yet. But I mean, our plan is to have a poster session for all the projects that MEM students have worked on in the last year. That includes returning students like yourselves, this course, independent studies, stuff from Nuvention, stuff from project management class, any kind of projects that you guys want to share. The seminar series, we had a seminar series this last year in the fall for the incoming students. And the seminar series was interesting because we kind of turned the tables and we asked the students to do something using AI that would benefit the program. Some of them wrote an ebook. Some of them started a blog. Some of them are doing a variety of different channels that there's, in social media that they're creating on behalf of MEM. We have a lot of content, so in many ways they're repackaging some of that content and redistributing that content. Come on in. We got some food here if you're hungry. So let's go through very quickly before we do the team presentations. And my sequence today will be software cloud first, energy, then medical, fintech, hydrogen, and then finishing up with precision fermentation or food, okay? That'll be the agenda. Each team will get 10 minutes to present, 10 minutes for Q&A. You'll be sharing your screen, so make sure you're logged on to Zoom if you're gonna be sharing your screen. Some of the topics we covered in class this last quarter, because I think it's important to kind of recap what we went through, and I thought I would jot down a few topics here, right? First and foremost, I think you guys hopefully learned something about customer discovery, right? About actually talking to customers, understanding the market from their perspective, their needs, their issues, their concerns, their problems, and their viewpoint as to how technology fits into their world or doesn't fit into their world. We talked a little bit about radical versus incremental change, right? Technology, in my mind, drives radical change. Design thinking, which I'm sure you can take a dozen courses in this school on design thinking, and frankly, that in many ways that leads to incremental thinking, incremental change. Nothing wrong with either. You probably need both in your life. If you don't have the right mix, you probably go out of business. I think we're seeing that now with companies going out of business, focusing too much on incremental, not enough on radical. And I'll have a little story for you at the end, probably a story we haven't told yet. What else did we cover? IP strategy, how to monetize IP, how to take various patents and intellectual property and have different ways to monetize them, licensing, bring it to market, component manufacturing, a system integration, a variety of ways to take your IP and leverage it as a way of creating cash flow. There's also a risk dimension to this. So what's your risk tolerance versus cash flow needs, right? We talked about road mapping quite a bit, how to roadmap your products and technologies, how they're always in support of business roadmaps and business strategy. Business model canvas, we covered quite a bit. Many of you have filled out a business model canvas. That canvas helps you understand how you're going to take your product and your technology to market, right? We talked a lot about competitive strategies and how to sustain competition, leapfrogging your competition versus fast following. There's a lot of different ways to use technology to compete, but recognize also that it's not a panacea, right? Technology is not always the answer, and sometimes it's the problem. We've seen companies like Meta that embraced the wrong technology for too long. Apple pursued an electric car for 10 years and spent over $1 billion, right? Only to cancel it with absolutely nothing to show for it. Xiaomi, on the other hand, did the exact opposite. They pursued it for half the time. They, too, are a phone manufacturer, very famous in China, very famous around the world. In fact, you would call them probably the closest thing to a true Apple competitor, perhaps outside of Samsung. Xiaomi has a very compelling electric car to show for. Half the time, half the cost. Apple couldn't pull it off, and Xiaomi could. Some of it is prioritization. What does the company prioritize? Some of it is momentum. Some of it is a willingness to embrace risk, right? In many ways, I see American companies quite unwilling to embrace risk. And as a result, they wind up, it almost becomes their demise, right? By not embracing risk, they take on a bigger risk, which is that they're not competitive anymore. We talked about sustaining competition, right? Turning science into a business. So it's not just IP, but all the legal aspects, all the regulatory aspects. So having an understanding of all those frameworks, right? Pivots, the importance of pivots. This was, to some extent, the Beta Golf case. A lot of this wraps around one book. And if there's only one book you read at the end of this class or during break, I would recommend Christensen's Innovator's Dilemma, okay? Because in a sense, we seem to forget the message. We seem to forget the lessons from that book year after year, company after company, industry after industry. So Innovator's Dilemma, Christensen is the author. He's out of Harvard. It's a classic. That's what everyone will reference. And the bottom line with Christensen is he's saying, look, to embrace change, you have to be willing to give up the past. Your cash cow, you have to be willing to kill it. You have to at least be willing to let it die a natural death, even if you don't kill it, okay? You can't keep bolstering your cash cow. You can't keep building it up to the point where it just suddenly one day collapses on you, right? So I'll give you one story I don't think we've covered. Have we talked about Netflix versus Blockbuster in here? I don't think we did. So let's talk a few minutes about Netflix versus Blockbuster. Netflix came on the scene in 1997. And through 2006, they were shipping DVDs through the mail based on orders you placed online. So you could say they were an online video distributor, right? In the early days. Blockbuster was on ground, had always been on ground, with tens of thousands of stores across the world. Very successful model, mostly selling or renting, VHS tapes for a few days or a week, right? People would therefore have a reason to come back to the store to return the tapes and get their new tape, right? So they had various models, but all of them revolved around the on-ground model, right? So in the early 2000s, Netflix was struggling. In fact, Netflix almost went under. They approached Blockbuster to do a teaming arrangement. And this is not unusual, right? For competitors to, approach each other to see if teaming might make sense. Because let's face it, these businesses, though in the same space, video, right? One was completely on ground, one was completely online. There's a huge degree of complementarity here, right? In a sense, they didn't really, you could argue, didn't really compete per se because they had totally different distribution models. Imagine a behemoth company, like for example, at the time, Blockbuster was probably 100 times bigger than Netflix. So if Netflix had, pick a number, 200 or 300 employees, Blockbuster had 20, 30,000 with huge buildings around the world, right? They were well established. Has anyone seen a Blockbuster store since you've been here? You might see stores that used to be Blockbuster, stores that have been redistributed or redeployed for other purposes. But those stores are long gone. And the reason is Blockbuster turned Netflix down. Why would Blockbuster turn Netflix down on a joint venture that could only be additive to their business model? Any ideas? Probably no history with this. Let me tell you what the answer is, right? So you've got the culture at Blockbuster that basically said, look, their CEO had recently retired. They brought in a new CEO with a retail background, basically like a 7-Eleven type background. So he was selling chips and soda and candies. And his idea as CEO was, not to go online, but to bring the retail experience into the Blockbuster store. So where you used to have videos and only videos, he was now selling popcorn and soda pop and candies. And that was his idea, was to expand his share of wallet, which is something they teach in MBA schools, which is very typical, but it's also very incremental, right? If you can get somebody to buy a box of candy while they're renting their video, you get an extra $2 of revenue from them. So your ARPU goes up, which is great, okay? When you're blocking an entirely new technological revolution like online, because of it. And that's exactly what they did, right? They said we were too busy enhancing our stores with this new retail model to actually spend the time and effort to go online, right? So what happened with Netflix? Well, they struggled. They had to go through some layoffs. They had to go through various refocusing of their business. 2007 rolls around. What happens in 2007? So they were shipping DVDs by mail up until 2007. They did a very complete pivot, if you will, towards a streaming model. The streaming model was very, very young. We're talking 17 years ago. They went streaming, okay? And the industry thought they were crazy, right? Because streaming was very intermittent, not very reliable, not well known, not well established, okay? Seen as a huge risk, but Netflix had little to lose, right? They had been struggling for some time. And, you know, frankly, the DVD model, shipping it through the mail, had kind of plateaued. It had run out of growth. And they needed a streaming model to change from basically a transaction-based business model to an all-you-can-eat, right? So effectively, when you're streaming, it makes no sense to say you can have 2 or 3 videos per week. It was effectively unlimited, right? So an all-you-can-eat model with a higher price point totally drove the industry crazy. The analysts said, forget it. Nobody's going to pay, you know, $8 or $9 or $10 a month for an all-you-can-eat model, when in fact people loved it and they gobbled it up. And as the technology matured, as the Wi-Fi speeds increased, as the LAN speeds increased, as people's TVs and adapters were made for the TVs, as they were able to be integrated, the streaming model became what it is today, right? And it's basically replaced cable. And Blockbuster has been, what, at least 3 to 5 years completely out of business, right? Comments about what I just described? Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Where do you feel like it's gonna go? Because nowadays, between like, if you make the personal decision to do like HBO, Hulu, Netflix, you're essentially paying what people used to pay in cable. And I don't know if it equates, but that's how I feel. I feel like it was marketed as like obviously convenience, but also cheaper. Where do you feel like it's going now in the future, now that we're almost circling back?
Yeah, what I think is cable, well, at least when I left cable, which was maybe 6 years ago or 5 years ago, it was extremely expensive. I was spending over $200 a month for 3 or 4 sets attached to cable. Now I'm paying a fraction of that, probably half of that, between my various streaming services. So I think I've cut my costs in half.
Also,
I think most people who are cable cutters would probably agree that they're cutting their, well,
yeah, I cut the cable too. Because cable, how many channels do you get? 200, 300, no. But how many do you watch? I mean, I used to get like 200 channels. I used to watch like 3.
Yeah,
Three channels.
right.
I got 200 channels.
Right. Especially when you're specialized. Maybe you like the Discovery Channel. Maybe you like the History Channel. Maybe you like sports. Whatever it is you want, you can get that as a streaming service that's very special for a fraction of the cost.
Exactly.
What people are doing, unfortunately, is they're not keeping track. So they sign up for a streaming service, then they sign up for another one and another one and another one, and then they look at their bill at the end of the year, and they say, "Oh my God, I've signed up for 5 streaming services. I'm using 2 of them. I'm going to cancel the other 3." Right? And especially when times get tough, people will cancel their streaming service. Netflix gives you no penalty for turning it on and off. If you're the type of person that watches TV in the winter, you could turn it on for 4 months and turn it off for 8, right? And Netflix and none of these services will penalize you. So I think there's a lot of advantages.
I have a follow-up question then, or like what you were saying, like people will open up. Is it true that they work together to split us up? Because like more often than not, you're gonna get a streaming service because you want to watch something that's only on Netflix, and then something else will only be on Peacock, for example. Is it true that they work together to kind of split us up, or is that just
if they coordinate with each other, that would be trust, or that would be an antitrust violation. So I can't say that they're necessarily coordinating with each other, but what will happen is the source of the content will do the coordination, right? And I don't think that's an antitrust violation. So let's say that I have Star Trek. I have the rights to Star Trek. I own those rights, and I can license them to various companies I can say, hey, I want the Star Trek original series to be on Netflix, and I want, the second generation to be on this venue and another generation to be on that venue. And I can pick and choose and say, I want to do business with these people. And why would they do that? To avoid saturation, right? When you have content, what you don't want to do is make it so omnipresent that people just take it for granted and they treat it as background noise. They say, oh, I can get that anywhere. It's always on, kind of like Seinfeld. You can find Seinfeld on, 15 different outlets. People don't even care about Seinfeld anymore because it's literally ubiquitous, right? So in a sense, you have to create, in some ways, an artificial shortage, right? And you'll see a lot of these ploys this time of year, right? So you'll hear a story about a toy or a game or a product that's considered the in thing for the Christmas season, but then they'll encourage you right away. Get in there and order it right away because otherwise we will run out. There's only a handful. PS5s, right? The video gaming industry has been doing this for a long time. A lot of industries will make sure that there's a bit of a shortage so that it creates a rationale or kind of a compulsion to go out and buy the product, right? And so you want the same thing with your content. You don't want it to be everywhere. You want it to be in sometimes specialized outlets like Apple TV or perhaps Amazon Prime, right? So these are outlets that, want exclusive deals, right? So it basically becomes compatible with the source of the content. The source of the content doesn't want oversaturation, and the distributor doesn't want to have too much competition. So those things go together, right? Does that help?
Yeah, that helps.
Okay. It's an interesting industry. In fact, if you take my negotiations class, we have a case called Cartoon, where we deal with this issue directly, right? So there's a balance of how much you want to distribute to a specific channel, how many times you're showing a specific product or piece of media versus, the saturation point versus, satisfying demand. So finding that kind of optimal range is actually a great project for industrial engineers, people who've studied optimization.
The good part of these streaming services are that they're not, as you said, monopolized.
Right.
When you had like Xfinity or something, it's monopolized, and they have to pay big bucks. But streaming videos, they typically have student versions, right? And they have Black Friday, right? I got Hulu and Disney together, $2.99 a month.
For how long?
For a year.
Okay.
After that,
You're in trouble.
I have another email. Every year they have the same thing. So you have 2 emails and switch.
Yeah.
Easily $2.99.
Yeah.
Same thing. Paramount Plus has like $5 for student.
Right.
Or even $4. And Amazon, they have Amazon Prime with Amazon delivery and unlimited photo. They're all packaged in the same price as your Amazon.
And music too, I think.
Music too.
Right.
So you have to shop around, you can get all the good deals.
Right.
You can, like T-Mobile has, Netflix and Apple TV included in your service.
Right.
So if you shop around, you can see that you can get a lot of these streaming at a fraction of cost.
So I guess what the point of the story is between Netflix and Blockbuster. Blockbuster was very hesitant to change their model. They had a very successful model. Innovator's Dilemma says you're reliant on that successful model for too long. And what happens is you ignore those technological advances that are sitting on the edge, on the periphery, and you dismiss them as saying, well, they're not going to be successful. In the early days of Tesla, I saw General Motors chairmen and CEOs, one after another, declaring that Tesla was going to be a complete disaster and failure. They predicted collapse within 5 to 7 years. They thought of it as kind of any other automotive startup that frankly has failed in the last 50 years. They pointed to that and said, look at all those failures, Tesla will be amongst them. They'll be added to the pile of failed startups in the automotive space. Every one of those forecasts was wrong, right? And every one of those companies that embraced internal combustion is now feverishly trying to catch up with Tesla. And Tesla has arguably potentially a 5 to 10 year lead. That lead is hard to cross. That chasm is very difficult to bridge outside of China. Now, China because they have such a vertically integrated as well as well-funded technological pipeline and a feverish devotion to the technology, they have exceeded in some ways where Tesla is today. And ironically, we in the US have no access to it because of trade barriers. So that's not just, the next government, it's the current government and the one before that and the one before that have all erected trade barriers so that we are not exposed to cheap and affordable and high-tech, leading-edge electric vehicles. We have Tesla, whose major innovation was, let's do what China's doing here. Let's do what China is doing here. That's their innovation. They didn't invent the electric car by any means. They didn't invent, basically software-defined architecture by any means, right? Those are things they put together to say, well, if we're protected by the government, let's operate in that protected scenario, right? Questions or comments? Anything I missed about what we covered in class? What stood out to you sitting in class the last 10 weeks?
Hello. So
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I think one thing that really stood out in the class and like I see like actually happening in the industry is like the long game people play with strategy. And you can break it down into like short term, medium term, long term, but long term is what really changes how we think about a product or like how the industry is going to accept a new design or a new way of doing things. So I think this class has really opened my mind to just trying to be more long-term and understanding that people actually embrace change as we go along. So designing something now for the future is actually possible, and making like those incremental steps to get there is all based on like the strategy you take, who is willing to, come on board, and even being strategic with your investors and even the team you have, and how you grow the team along the years. It's very important. So yeah, that's my
Those long-term investments. I mean, I applaud Apple for investing in EV research, EV development, EV technologies for upwards of a decade. I applaud them. What I wonder is, did they develop absolutely nothing they could license?
Yeah, but this is the interesting thing. You never know. So you have companies that are probably buying most of their IPs and most of the things they develop throughout the period, or even they licensing parts of it to other vehicle manufacturers to be able to integrate the Apple products better into the cars. So one thing I'll say for sure is there are so many things that happen behind the curtain that like it's not always out there for us to like know and have access to. There are so many deals going on between different companies across board, and that development process, I believe, is not just in vain. I'm sure they develop platforms along the way for their vehicles, probably different kind of ways they were thinking about how a car moves and stuff like that, and they can license this out, they can sell that knowledge to another vehicle manufacturing company. Like through NDAs, they can open up a bit of it to them and then check if they want to buy. But I'm very sure they develop interesting stuff, but maybe they realize the manufacturing might not be as feasible as they thought it would be maybe 10 years ago. Yeah, I feel like that would be an outside opinion, but these are things that happen in the industry.
No, I agree, and I think in many ways the infotainment portion of the automobile was that breakthrough point that I think both Apple and Google were trying to penetrate, right? By saying if we can dominate in infotainment, if we can dominate in that space, then maybe we can then move to navigation, and then we can move to the entire driver user interface and experience, right? So you expand from a beachhead, a technological beachhead, right, into eventually operating and building an entire car, right? I thought that's where they were going, but they must have somewhere along the ways decided, you know what, since we outsource so much to China, and China's so far ahead, there's no way we can successfully outsource to the people that are so far ahead of us, right? And if we can't build it, and if we can't implement these technologies indigenously here in the US, where they operate from, then it doesn't make sense to to continue. So they've chosen other avenues, right? Banking. Apple's in the banking business, right? Apple partnered with Barclays, right, to develop a solution. So they've decided to go in other consumer-facing, somewhat stagnant or delayed industries where technology can certainly play a value add, right?
Yeah.
Mark, if you don't mind if I jump in, apologies to everyone. I'm running a little late today, but I am online until I'm in room. I think Apple may have seen the very, I wouldn't even call it writing on the wall. I would call it giant billboards all around everywhere. China has, I'm sure all of you have seen the news from a few days ago. If you haven't, I encourage you to look it up. China has officially announced an export ban on gallium, germanium, and antimony, 3 metals very critical to the semiconductor space. And without those metals and others, electric vehicles and their infrastructure are really not possible or feasible. And if Apple doesn't have a way to get the access to those raw materials, as simple as that may sound, they have no path to market. And I don't think that's going to be changing anytime soon. I think the most recently announced export ban is a result of the current geopolitical climate and is definitely subject to change. But the overarching sentiment of China having a stranglehold on the raw material space is a very, very, very real and limiting factor that would prevent them from gaining access to the market.
And so this speaks to the dynamic nature of technology strategy, right? I mean, what we have here is a very quickly changing geopolitical climate. The impact on EVs is just the beginning, is it not? I mean, we're talking about the entire integrated circuit industry.
It's not even just the integrated circuit industry. The United States we haven't just been outsourcing cheap labor for the last 40, 50 years. We've been outsourcing our pollution. And right or wrong, Americans have viewed primary industries, raw material heavy commodity industries, as dirty, either dirty environmentally or dirty socially, dirty politically, dirty as in, well, those are dirty jobs and those are beneath me. And for a whole host of reasons, we have outsourced our position in being able to provide ourselves with the stuff that we need to keep society functioning. It's a very, very wide-ranging problem. I mean, as I just mentioned, it's rooted in the quote-unquote stuff that we need to drive all of the industries on top of said stuff. So initially, it's going to be hitting the more specialty niche industries, rare earth elements, semiconductor metals. But in actuality, we don't have a handle on copper, aluminum, a little bit of the steel supply chain, but even the primary metals, we've fallen very, very far behind on our ability to supply ourselves with the stuff we need.
So while we spent most of the entire quarter talking about technology strategy, we could have just as easily talked about sourcing strategy. And I think the two are coupled, right? So get to know your sourcing people, stay in touch with your geopolitical climates and situations as they evolve, and recognize that your technology is only as good as the raw materials, as Ian's pointing out, or some of the other technological inputs that are coming from other parts of the world that you may or may not have control over. The State Department can decide that certain types of AI, for example, cannot be exported, right, or shipped to other countries. Or for that matter, other AI technologies can't be imported from other countries, right? And those types of constraints are put on all of us at all times. It's called export commodity controls, ECC or ECCNs, as you might know them as engineers. And you're probably familiar with, if you've worked in the US, filling out the ECCN paperwork to label various types of technologies under these regulatory frameworks, right? So, and it kind of all leads back to understanding the regulatory constraints, what you can and cannot do at any point in time with any specific country or point of origin. With that, let's move on to team one. The software cloud team wants to go first. So I will let you share your screen. And you'll have 10 minutes.
Are you able to see my screen?
We can see it. Let me make it a little bit bigger here locally. Otherwise, why don't you get started? Take it away.
Yes. So, hi everybody. Very good morning. We are team cloud and software. We over the past 4 weeks we worked a lot on our technical solution, and the final solution that we have is the quantum enhanced sustainable cloud strategy. Our team has Yuxin, Yian, and myself. The problem that we were trying to address is with growing energy consumption and carbon emissions in cloud operations, challenging companies to meet sustainable targets. The existing solution that the large-scale providers have are costly, complex, and mostly tailored only for them. Our solution, our statement of work is to collaborate with this company called Artificial Brain, thanks to Professor Mark and Yan to introduce us to them, where we are going to develop a quantum-powered AI-driven optimization and dynamic workload shifting software that will help companies reduce their energy consumption and operational cost, also get them closer towards their sustainability goals, and be able to compete with their enterprise customers. The elevator pitch is as follows. The challenge is that the mid-tier companies providers face high energy cost, high carbon emissions, and lack of scalable sustainability solutions. Our solution, the AI-driven optimization and the dynamic workload shifting, and over that, a quantum computing layer to reduce energy cost, cut energy use, cut cost, and enhance sustainability. We'll be partnering with Artificial Brain to build that quantum layer. The value that we're trying to provide is an affordable, scalable solution for these mid-tier companies. As I mentioned, the technical evaluation is the AI-driven optimization, which uses machine learning to predict workload patterns and optimize their resource allocation. So the quantum enhancement that we have here is it accelerates the complex operations and help us scale in the future. The dynamic workload shifting, it shifts workload in real time to renewable power data centers. The quantum enhancement that we currently have is that it optimizes the workload distribution and make it more precise. Finally, from our interviews, we understood that we also need to create a sustainable dashboard where all this information can be projected, and the solution that we provide is it easily integrates with the different solutions they already have currently in their data centers. Some of the limitations that we looked at is that because it's an AI model, we require high quality data, and also the dynamic workload shifting, because it shifts between different data centers, there's a potential latency issues. Also the real-time dashboard, as we scale over a period of time, there might be challenges. And because quantum computing is something which is in a really early stage, we'll have issues with that as well. When we look at performance, the initial solution that we provided, which is AI plus classical methods, it is a good solution, but which it'll have a scalability constraint. But with quantum computing, we'll be able to work over it. The applications that we look here is the energy optimization. The current solution that there is only for the large scale data centers, but we look at a solution that's more towards mid-tier providers and which is more scalable in the future. The dynamic workload shifting is again limited to large providers such as Google and AWS. We look to provide a solution that's more inclined to the mid-tier companies. If you look at quantum computing, they're still not using a lot of quantum computing technology in their data centers, but we look to bring that to the mid-tier companies who can take off from there. Renewable integrations, again, they're not integrated very well, the current solutions. So we look to integrate seamlessly with the solutions that they have. We also looked up different industries that consume a lot of energy and how our solution can fit them. So some of the areas that we looked at is energy and utilities, where we can optimize grid operations, manufacturing and industrial, where they use a lot of electricity. So that's another area that we can look at. Healthcare is another industry that not a lot of people are touching because it's very energy intensive. And finally, on transportation and logistics, the EV market is there where we can apply our solutions. Ian will take over the.
Yeah. From the interview and the analysis, we choose to serve the small and medium-sized business as our beachhead market. Because of they have like a large market opportunity, there are like 90% of business in most economics and small to medium business. Also, those are like a fragmented market, so it's diverse and have many different areas, and also other regions like the growing adoption trend for cloud computing for those business, and also they are seeking for like a cost effectiveness and efficiency needs that we could provide them, and also most of them they like of in-house expertise. We can create like user-friendly and intuitive solutions for them to make sure they could use our tools without like much technical knowledge. Next slide, please. Yeah, and here's the list of our hypotheses. Most of them are around like our clients are seeking sustainable cloud computing solutions, and also AI, machine learning, and the quantum-powered cloud computing could help us to figure out the solutions of dynamic shifting, and also the solutions for most optimized energy consumptions. Yeah. Next.
Some of the evidences that we saw were that from our interviews, we understood that the mid-tier companies are facing this issue, and their lack of affordability and scalable solutions is something, again, that we understood from our interviews. So our solution, when we presented the quantum-powered solutions that we mentioned, they mentioned that this is the future, and people are working towards this. So it's a race that we have to get front in. The willingness to buy, again, from our interviews, they understood that if it's a cost-effective solution, industries or data centers will be ready to take up this solution. So we also, during our research, we understood, we looked up some reports. So from McKinsey, we understood that while many companies aim to run over 50% of their application in cloud within the next 3 to 5 years, most of them achieved only a fraction of this goal. So which really shows a clear gap. So our solution can bridge those solutions that are there. Another report where we understood that 47% of decarbonization initiative can be accelerated by cloud technologies. 32 metric gigaton of CO2 reduction can be potentially met globally, and over 100 billion in annual benefits with solutions like this.
Yeah, and for the market analysis, we see the entire computing cloud market is around like $480 billion, and also in 2 years it will become to like $1 trillion, and also the compound annual growth rate is around 17 to 20%. The beachhead market we like to serve is 25% as the small to medium businesses. Yeah, and for the target segments, as mentioned, our beachhead market is small and medium-sized business, and we will expand to public sectors and service providers to expand our market.
So the value proposition, as mentioned earlier, is a scalable, cost-effective platform that's designed more towards a mid-tier company. Some of the benefits that we can see is energy efficiency, sustainability, actionable insights from the dashboards that we create, and also a scalability solution that's powered by quantum. Our quantum advantage, the competitive advantage is a quantum enhanced AI, which is a solution that's more integrated and an affordable solution that we can provide. Yuxin will take over from here.
So for the business module description, our main income source would be the annual subscription fee. Starts from 0.6 million with customization and add-on features up to 0.3 million. We can jump to the next slide, please.
Are these annual? This is the annual cost, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
But like, it's not a small amount of money. Like, why do you gonna choose us? So with our solution, you're gonna save 0.3 million on the energy cost and 0.2 on the operational downtime, 0.3 million on the carbon penalty cost, but and there's also 0.6 million on our annual subscription. And in this case, you're gonna save at least $0.2 million. And for the unit economics, scaling from year 1 to year 5, it shows us the way that how are we gonna reach the break-even point. So for the growth of customers, we assume we're gonna have a 50% of annual growth rate and also a 10% of the annual churn rate. For that, we're gonna start with 10 customers in the first year and reach 40 customers in the 5th years. And accordingly, all the data is shown. And we can notice that for the net profit, in the 5th year, we're gonna reach aggregated net profits of 4.75 million, which also includes all the initial expenditures, which means that we're gonna reach the break-even point at the almost the start of the 5th year of the 4th years. So I think it's a good time length for a cloud-related business to get that point. And could you jump to the next? And for the techno-economics, so as I mentioned, the initial investment we assume is 1.6 million, which includes 1.2 on the development of quantum optimized cloud management software, and 0.4 for the cloud native integrations. And we think this is gonna last for at least five years, which means we're gonna do any significant reshaping and rebuilding on that within 5 years. And for the operational expenditures, it shows you all the detailed breakdown of marketing, management, R&D, maintenance, CSE, customer support, and this energy and sustainability impact part shows you how we're gonna save you the energy consumption and on the carbon penalty cost. And for the projected market penetration, the average number of data centers for a small and medium-sized business is 15. So it's reasonable to get to start with 10 customers, which is 10 data centers in the first year, and reach the number around 40 in the 5th year. And next, please.
So in the time that we have, we also try to build a sustainable dashboard, basically something that we look to build in the future. So again, this is how the user sets their profile, the dashboard where they can upload their image and the company name. This is how they get to see how the social solution is performing and how much cost that they have to pay, and also get some real-time updates based on the solution that we provide. Also get to see energy usage graphs, and over the period of time, how they can compare how their energy usage has reduced, and also details on how they can further improve with the quantum solutions that we provide. Yeah, thank you.
All right, nice job. So your business model relies on charging, what is the 0.6 million, $600,000 per year. That's going to be a tough nut to sell to small and medium-sized businesses, I would expect. So
Yes.
instead of selling it that way, why don't you position this as a net share or rev share model where the net savings to the customer gets split somehow with your company. So instead of charging them 600K, if they're saving, let's say 900K without your subscription costs, If you do a 50-50 split, you'll get 450 and they get 450, right? And I think that's a lot easier for them to swallow because they have no idea what savings, if any, they're going to have. And to put 600K on the promise of having savings might be a little bit tough, especially for small and medium-sized businesses.
2 points. First, kudos for not showing a spreadsheet with 6 digits on each item. In other words, your presentation of the technical economics and the economics was extremely well done. I'm wondering whether your angle of adding the risk of successfully implementing quantum computing in your model is necessary for the entire business model. I think you're adding an element of risk and expectation that might not create a substantial bump in the value of your product.
This is correct. We were actually looking at the solution that we provided without the quantum. But when we spoke to an expert who's Jitesh from Artificial Brain, so he mentioned that the industry is moving towards quantum solutions because it's more scalable and it's more precise in nature. So they have proficiency in satellite, providing quantum solutions for satellites, quantum solutions for windmills and other energy spaces. So during our call with them, they are the ones who mentioned that we need to look up quantum before we are late, and because this is a technology disrupting a solution that we're creating, we need to keep that in mind, that quantum is something that will play a big role in the future.
You have to have a quantum physical capability in your client's data center in order to capitalize on the quantum technology to produce the savings that you're identifying.
Correct. And you don't need to have a fully functional quantum solution on site. I think major cloud providers right now, they are providing solutions that's accessible through cloud. And again, from our calls, that's what we understood. And also, we're taking a step further. We're looking to write a white paper on our strategy and the quantum solution that Artificial Brain is going to help us with, and we'll be publishing it soon. So
this is exactly the type of project we should be showcasing with our industry night, because you've got a company, you've got a technology, you're at the leading edge here. And I think you've integrated a really nice solution that actually deals with several problems, energy issues and sustainability issues combined. Right.
Well done. And I encourage you to keep pursuing.
Yep. Yes. Even outside of the class.
Yeah. I definitely agree with what Valeria said in terms of the presentation, the content, the economics. And I'd like to switch a little bit on the limitation that we mentioned at the beginning. I didn't see in your presentation anything about what those limitations would limit you and how you're gonna, go about addressing those limitations, and what does it impact your bottom line. That's one thing that I was hoping I could see in your presentation. And the second one is your collaboration with Intelligent Brain. What impact does it have to your bottom line? What is the partnership term, and how you negotiate with that, right? Because you're depending on them. What are they bringing to the table? What are you bringing to the table, and what impact has to your bottom line numbers?
Got it.
In some ways, it seems like that same complementarity I was talking about between Netflix and Blockbuster, right? They're in the same space, but they deal with it in different ways.
Different ways, and what is the term?
Right.
I mean, you're relying on them to help you, build you up. What is the term? Are they want to get all of your bottom line? And how you said within like the first 3 years or something, you break even. Would that extend your break even time to even further? Some kind of plan would be nice.
So not to pick nits, but just in general, what you guys called unit economics was actually a pretty detailed pro forma income statement.
Yeah.
And those are different things. They're both good things to have, but don't confuse. Unit economics is a very detailed understanding of the cost to deliver your product or service from a bottoms-up perspective, okay? So the techno-economics really looked to me like a pro forma balance sheet that you guys are putting together in terms of what capital you needed and what your break-even point was. Recognize that techno-economics is usually externally focused on, if you have a competitive technology, when does your technology become as cost-effective as the competitor? The classic example is if you're comparing solar panels to coal-generated power, you know, that break-even, what we call grid parity, occurred, what was it, 5 years ago or 4 years ago? Something like that, depending on the market. And so that's what we call techno-economics. But everything you presented was valuable and worthwhile. I just wanted to point out for the benefit of the other students, you know, when you're asked to do unit economics, unfortunately, it's much more microscopic in nature. They want you to take that product that you've developed and break it down to every component, every piece, every process step, every handling step, every distribution and shipping step, and understand the costs from the bottom up, right?
A nice part of your presentation was the mock-up of your dashboard. I think that sort of was a very effective closing of your presentation.
And I'm sure that's what's going to appeal to the artificial brain folks, right? Is to see that you've actually got a mock-up of something you can actually deliver.
Well done.
Yeah.
They really changed from the midterm presentations, which is a little bit kludge. It didn't really have, didn't stick.
Yeah.
This final presentation, it was drastic change.
And a huge improvement too.
Huge.
Yeah.
I couldn't use it.
All right, well done. Thank you. Let's move on to the energy team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Energy, feel free to share your screen.
You just come there.
Yeah, you come on up, but also share your screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ian, I didn't want to skip over you. Is there anything you wanted to mention?
No, just that like the other advisors, I'm incredibly impressed with the direction and the progress that you made over the course of the quarter. I think it was appropriate to mention that quantum is a new enough technology area that it can be associated with some risk. I think that's a perfect time to stress the relationship with artificial brains and their success in the optimization problems of other spaces. Because while quantum-driven AI optimization of data centers is certainly brand new, they have experience with optimizing other systems using quantum technologies, which kind of prove out the idea and the concept and do a lot of the de-risking for you. So I think you could lean on other examples, other areas in which they have successfully achieved optimization as a way of kind of an extra layer of de-risking of your model. But overall, I think it's really, really well thought out, laid out, and I completely agree with Mark. This is exactly the kind of product and idea that we want to be showcasing on a larger scale.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yian.
There's a lot of overlap because we're both a little bit focused on energy. The next team will be completely focused on energy, so I'll let them take it away. Energy team, it's yours.
Yeah. We're the AI and energy team, and our solution is the intelligent energy management system. Our team is Martin and Nisha, who are online, as well as Val, Parth, Mrunal, and myself. So the problems that we wanted to kind of solve, first of all, was that we felt that there's an inefficient energy management at the moment all across due to the lack of real-time data and optimization. There's also a lot of high energy costs and wastage in residential and small commercial settings. And there's a limited adoption of renewable energy sharing due to infrastructure gaps at the moment. So here's our elevator pitch. So our mission is to empower you to create a more efficient, sustainable future through intelligent energy management. And our solution is that we understand that with rising energy costs and the pressure to do more with less, we want to provide an intelligent energy optimization and seamless integration, which can help you save potentially 15 to 30% of your energy consumption, which helps to create a smarter, more sustainable future. So the key benefits is that we will help you save time with automated monitoring and optimization. We'll help you save money with your reduction in energy consumption. And you'll also get smarter because you have your data-driven insights for informed decision making. With that, I'll pass it over to Martin to talk you through the solution.
Martin, you're muted.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, so our solution is it has really 4 parts. So we have the IoT devices that directly interact with our cloud-based software, which is the second part of it, to pretty much process the data we produce from the data we get from all these appliances. So peripheral devices or appliances that already have IoT-enabled devices in them. And then the third part of it is an application, so a phone application which would do like a deep dive and provide insights right to the customer or right to the user, and for them to actually see what they're doing. It is also enabled with a lot of API extensions, so we can connect into utility websites to fish out data for time of day pricing. We could get more information on other functionalities on appliances. Also, these devices will be logged and then created this data will be logged to create personalized profiles for people who are using our software. So it will give them the opportunity to, it will give us the opportunity to further look in the next couple of years on how we can do peer-to-peer sharing, because that's a critical part of it, understanding the granular data and then having good insights to be able to transition. Also, while someone has that data, they can easily use it when they move into a new building, because they already understand what their utilization profile is. Even the building management can also use that information for any other functionality that they need to be used for. The next slide. So for the technical evaluations, we looked at these 4 parts of our project. So the first part is IoT devices connected to appliances. So for technical evaluations, there are 2 things that we considered. So what are the capabilities of it, and then what are the limitations, right? So the capability that we have with Wi-Fi and Zigbee is obviously it allows us to interact quickly. Zigbee uses a block function that links up different devices together, and then it transmits on the same wavelength as Wi-Fi, but it's a block system, so it connects devices together and is able to transmit data across board. And Wi-Fi, as we know, we all use Wi-Fi. It's easy for us to connect devices, share information quickly. But now, what happens is when you have a break in communication, how do you also quickly interact with your data? How are we going to and deal with the limitation of that sort? So it's also one other thing that came up is cyber attacks. When you have people breaking into the network, trying to get personal information out of your phone. Even these energy data profiles, at some point, we believe that is going to be very crucial. It's going to be like how you have your credit card information, because it's valuable information that might create money for another company or entity, or have people understand how you interact with your appliances and get access to you some way, somehow. The thing is, we considered Wi-Fi and Zigbee because I think the platforms they've been built over the years. Zigbee is a little older, but more functional for the application that we want to use it for. But we still believe that these limitations and capabilities blend in together, and we can provide that safe net or firewall that will prevent us from, having all the bad effects on our system. And now we have the cloud-based service to process data. So now it's very if you look at the landscape, you realize that cloud-based services are easily accessible. We have AWS, we have so many other platforms that we can easily use. It's also centralized, it's faster, we have more data centers coming up. So we know it's really easy. One big limitation that we have is data privacy laws. Like in California, there's a CCPA law here that protects individuals, that helps protect individuals' data. And then in Europe, we also have like another privacy law that might also affect our strategy. And how we believe we can handle this, or how it's being handled now by most companies, is making the customers understand what they're signing up for, not just by terms and conditions, but clearly taking them through everything that's all the laws that apply to it, all the requirements that we have to meet as well would be covered in the process. So that's one way we are going to solve it. We have so many other companies that use or navigate these laws every day, so it's good. And then we have the user interface to the phone application, which we've clearly spoken about extensively. And then we have API capabilities for external functionality. So this is going to allow us to tap into like vehicles, other IoT devices, and all that. So yeah, thank you.
So moving on to the applications. So our solution, as Martin was also talking about and Ashwin was talking about, was to address energy challenges across multiple applications, starting with residential energy management as our preferred focus. So in this segment, our platform enables real-time monitoring, cost savings, and renewable energy integration. It also supports localized energy sharing and peer-to-peer energy trading, ensuring resilience during outages. So for alternate applications, we see significant opportunities in large commercial buildings where we can optimize energy intensive systems like HVACs, lighting, and energy storage for substantial cost saving. In smart cities, our platform supports EV charging infrastructures, demand response programs, and citywide energy optimization, creating more sustainable urban environments. So our beachhead market focus will be Chicago and Illinois State, where we aim to leverage existing energy efficiency programs and community solar initiatives. So the region's infrastructure and policy development, coupled with insights from our interviews, make it an ideal starting point. The ease of integrating our solution into existing buildings and the supportive community solar programs will help us optimize our offerings and scale economically. Next slide, please. So the market segments and key hypotheses highlighted here are so that our target market includes, as we said, the residential buildings and small commercial enterprises driven by the need for cost savings, efficiency, and sustainability. We focus on 3 areas here. First, our user-friendly mobile app, which will offer real-time energy insights and customization based on time of day pricing, etc. So the second is the gamification features, which will drive engagement, make energy savings interactive and rewarding. The third hypothesis is our platform's predictive analytics will deliver 15 to 30% energy savings, reducing costs and supporting sustainability. So these hypotheses, as you can see, align with the market needs and guide our solution development. So passing over to Mrunal to explain a little more about our solution.
Yeah, so initially during our interviews, we were like all over the space, don't know really who to interview. So throughout the interview process, we got to know that we should be focusing on some specific business sectors and end users. So from that, we basically got that the business sectors are looking for some energy cost saving solutions. And the consumers who are for like EV owners or other people, they're mostly looking for something which can keep track of their energy use, which they can monitor lifetime. So that's the main evidence that this problem is worth solving. We got from all our interviews.
Moving on to the market size, the global energy management market is forecasted to reach around 53.26 billion by 2024 with a 13% CAGR. Our primary focus is again the residential and small commercial sectors, which account for an addressable market of 40 billion. Specific opportunities include urban and suburban areas with supportive policies such as smart city initiatives, disaster resilience funding, etc. Over 5 years, we aim to capture 5% of this market, or approximately 2 billion, by targeting high growth regions in North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. Can we go to the next slide? So highlighting our business model overall, we could call it as energy as a service, and we employ a diversified revenue model with 5 streams. First is the hardware sales for IoT sensors, batteries, and microgrid setups generate the upfront revenue. The second is our energy as a service subscription offers real-time energy monitoring and predictive maintenance for the residential and commercial users. The third point here is the AI software licensing supports utilities with load balancing and efficiency optimization. Fourth, having the data analytics, monetize insights for city planners and corporate ESG teams. Lastly, our disaster resilience solutions such as microgrid as a service cater to emergency scenarios. This model ensures a robust and scalable and sustainable revenue generation. So moving on to the unit economics, which would be taken over by Parth Chatwani.
Thanks, Nisha. So when we talk about the unit economics, the main cost for us is going to be the device and maintaining the platform and the maintenance. So the initial cost for us is going to be developing the platform, which is the primary cost for us. And we are trying to create like a platform development going forward, like not just the software, but also starting with the hardware cost with the device. And there we studied the market looking at IndiaMart, Alibaba, and various other sources from where we can source in the IoT devices for cheap. And here we saw multiple different iterations of the IoT device, whether it's 1 socket, 3 socket, or 5 socket. And it's a fractional difference of certain cents. And there we took the highest cost, wherein the DTV cost to the US comes down to $3.5 per unit. And based on that, we've devised the cost to the customer in 2 segments that we are targeting as a feature market for residential and commercial. And there, our profit per customers will be $15 to $35 per year. And the whole game for us is going to be scalability, and that's where we have tried to look into the growth economics for a 3-year plan, wherein our first year plan will be to generate the revenue through early adopters, and then move towards more clientele towards year 2 with educating them and increasing the customer base by 50%. Because Chicago as a place has a lot of customers who are interested in such solutions, and with community solar coming in, we have a lot of startups with whom we spoke. They are ready to tie up with us and do like a scalable approach towards this project. And at the same time, in year 3, we feel that looking at a year-on-year growth with more adopters in North America, we look at another 40% growth out here with optimized costs and diversified revenue streams through various other applications, wherein we also bring utilities on board for the gamification plan and more predictive analysis, which we can share with them based on the user analysis that we get. And through all of these things, our 3-year plan in terms of the profit is going to be around 1.1 million dollars. And the biggest drivers, if you see, are in terms of the cost, like our internal costs are going to be much lower in scalability for the cloud cost and the maintenance cost, which will be coming through our third-party developers in third world countries, where we want to optimize costs through that aspect. And coming to our customer acquisition cost over the 3-year plan, we see that a strong reduction in our customer acquisition cost thanks to scalability and networking effects that we feel that we are going to get. And overall, we feel that with this benefits that we are getting with IoT as a selling point through different channels, as well as the platform that we are creating, we feel that we are on the right track building this product and moving forward with the growth plan. And we want to continue this forward with more interviews and building the MVP for the Chicago market, right? So thank you.
All right, nice job. I will point out that this team and the previous team both ran over significantly, so you're closer to 15 minutes instead of 10. Yeah. I would recommend people try to limit yourselves to 10 to 12 slides and see if you can hit the 10-minute mark. I loved your presentation. I'm very curious of these companies that you're talking about, how serious they are. I mean, if you went to them tomorrow and said, hey, let us build this for you, right? We can deliver it in whatever time frame, 60 days, a prototype. Would they bite? Would they be interested in putting it into productive use?
So we spoke with this company called Perch Energy, and they are a community solar company. They are doing really good work in New York, Illinois, and in the Bay Area. So they were really interested in taking this forward, and they were like, "We would love to know what's happening, and stuff, like what is the next plan that we are looking at." So we like, once we're done with the course, maybe we can discuss things forward. So
I mean, this is how people create their own jobs, right? Sometimes the jobs aren't posted. Sometimes the jobs are created by saying, "Here, there's a need you have. Here's a solution. Hire us to fulfill that solution for you," right?
What happens to your model if your customer acquisition cost is off by a factor of 10?
Yeah. So that is something we really need to deep dive in right now, because right now it's all on a hypothetical basis, because the cloud development and the platform development cost is going to be the real driving force for the next steps for us.
But to get a residential customer directly instead of online for $50.
So online is 35. The thing you saw was like, if you do like a marketing thing, going to buildings and giving like them incentives, that is $50. But the highest cost that we feel is around gonna be for the commercial customers, wherein we'll have to give them more benefits to get them on board. But then this offset for them is gonna be the IoT device cost, because they will be buying more IoT devices from us, as like if we take a big office, they have more plug-in points, and they will need more sockets. So the more the IoT devices, the better the revenue for us. So that's where we feel that we will be optimizing the cost in terms of acquisition of the customer.
Go to Home Depot, set up a display in Home Depot, and discount the hub, which is what I think you're designing here as a hub, right? Discount the hub, in essence, 50%, right? Almost give them away.
Give them away, but that adds to your cost of getting them.
Right.
That's my concern.
Yeah.
In other words, I think it is a great presentation, good insight, good basic design of your product. I think that the weakness that I see is in getting the number of customers in the first year you identify. And the first year having a profit is very, very small chance.
But give them credit for actually thinking about CAC. I mean, who else thinks about CAC at this stage, right?
Exactly.
So
absolutely great presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you looked at a lot of good areas that you focus on, especially when you talk about peer-to-peer energy trade. I think that would be really good if you can do it. But I see that there are a lot of barriers there. I see a lot of homes now that they have like solar panels that they use their own energy at cheap, but then they put back into the grid. They sell it back to the energy company. So you're dealing with energy companies, huge. Right. And so somehow you need to, have some kind of business model of how you're going to take that energy, extra energy from a peer house and distribute it to the next house. If you can get that piece figured out, I think you will have, huge profit.
I think the grid operators want to put themselves in the middle of that transaction.
Yeah.
So peer-to-peer transactions are probably going to be prohibited, even potentially by law. And you might be forced to sell only to the grid on the terms that the grid operators dictate. In some cases, they're favorable. In many cases, they're not. Martin, you had your hand up.
Yes. I just wanted to bring this point in. So the main reason why we want to tie into the utility initiatives that are in the beachhead market we identified was Chicago, but even moving outside Chicago, like in California and the Bay Area, it gives you access to so many more users, and then there are so many incentives that come to the user at the end of the day through these incentives. Like National Grid runs like a big energy efficiency initiative, which this can directly tie into. Even though we are not directly working with the utility, tying into this initiative can kind of help us, get to the numbers that we kind of speculated. And I think that's where our angle was coming from. So like in Chicago, ComEd, for example, can be one. PG&E is like constantly open to having like partners like this coming to help, reduce energy efficiency. When the time of day pricing is actually very, very helpful, because knowing that you are spending maybe $10 when you $10 a day when you turn on your heater, and then spending $3 a day when your heater is on a certain level, gives you a better understanding of, okay, I should probably be managing my energy more efficiently. It's once you have the information in front of you, it's easy for you to make decisions. So that's the main reason why we wanted to use a utility, because without that, it's really difficult to, go one-on-one to people, even though we can do that, but it is easier for us to do this for people to actually have a good sense of what we want to do, and then having people catch on later on. So that was a big idea that we had.
So let me just make a comment here about selecting your beachhead, right? Looking at costs, we're probably one of the cheapest markets out there. We're probably a third of the California market. So in terms of cost per megawatt or kilowatt hour. So that may move you away from Chicago. The other things that to think about policies, net metering policies, for example, the ability to sell energy back to the grid, and what those rates are. Those are things that you need to consider. So perhaps looking at different markets, you might actually come up with a different conclusion than Chicago, even though I think Chicago is a great market for a lot of reasons. Cheap energy is going to draw a lot of data centers and a lot of commercial industries here that rely heavily on energy. But at the same time, because they're low rates, some of these break evens are not going to be that attractive compared to, say, California, Hawaii, parts of Florida. So check those things out when you're selecting your beachhead.
All right, sure. Thank you so much.
Otherwise, great presentation. Let's give them one last round of applause. Okay, that was energy. Let's move to medical and healthcare. Job well done, folks. Ian, any comments before we move on to medical?
High level, very, very impressed with your understanding of the market space, the need, the potential application. I think many of my comments kind of echo some of the others. I hear exactly why you said, the Chicagoland is a favorable beachhead, the regulatory environment, the community solar projects, et cetera, et cetera. Then, the compelling reason to use your technology was laid out financially, and it made sense financially. But from a financial standpoint, it was determined by the unit cost and the somewhat techno-economic cost. And there weren't a lot of details as to how does the residential community solar programs in Chicagoland, how do they directly contribute to the revenue of the beachhead market that makes it favorable? But I think that those details are the things that you would need to continue to look at, to flesh out, to advance this forward. But overall, really, really great job. From where you started to where you ended, you've come a long, long way. I'm proud of you guys.
Yes, it's funny. I know this market really well, especially the residential market. The smart home is defined mostly for convenience purposes and security. It's not focused on energy, right? So taking the energy dimension to smart home is a new and important dimension that has been missed by all the players. There's a lot of players, guys. A lot. Samsung has been in it for a decade. Have they succeeded? No, not even close. So many failures, right? So is energy the linchpin? I don't know. I think this is what the risk of being one more entrant into a crowded field is. The differentiator, I think, for you might or might not make the difference. But
I think that the opportunity in the residential market is particularly strong when you have a resident with an EV.
And or panels, solar panels,
Yeah,
right?
and now you have, in other words, two aspects that the present smart home is doing nothing with.
Right.
In other words, that is the solar panels and the EV. And both of them, in other words, are an order or 2 orders of magnitude greater opportunity to provide savings,
right,
compared to a refrigerator or a stove.
And in that context, you might want to consider partnering with a company like Anchor that's very much into home energy storage systems, batteries, integrating with solar panels and with net metering and all that stuff. They're the ones who you should partner with. With that, let's move on to cardio alert. Medical, take it away.
Hi everyone, we are team 2 and the product or the solution that we're building is Cardio Alert. The team is Aishwarya, Saakshi, me, Anusha and Sayooj. We also wanted to thank our academic advisor, Professor Hamid, who helped us and guided us throughout the project. Sorry. So moving to the next slide, the problem that we identified is that managing congestive heart failure is a challenge right now, and with a really high admission rates, and there are costly interventions as well, and the current RPM devices currently lack the predictive insights to predict CHF early to detect early CHF. So the solution that we are actually building here is an AI powered solution which will integrate with the existing RPM devices and help detect CHF early. So the solution flow that we thought about is that we'll be integrating or we'll be collecting data from the existing RPM and the pacemaker devices. We'll do data processing, train our AI module, and then evaluate it. Then deploy the model, and then integrate with the existing EHR system. And then based on the feedback system, we'll be taking the feedback from the doctors, and then we'll be improving our solution. So moving to the next slide, which is the elevator pitch, and Aishwarya will walk us through this.
Yeah. So our solution is mainly focused on revolutionizing the remote patient monitoring for CHF patients by combining the real-time data that we gain from pacemaker devices and RPM devices with using advanced AI models. Like we'll be using classification problem models like LSTMs and transformers. And we would be partnering with managed care organizations to focus on providing value-based care. And this will be mainly to enabling early interventions and reducing the readmission rate into the hospitals and deliver personalized care. So the integration, like Swati said, the integration would be very smooth with existing EHRs. Hence, the adoption of the solution will be easier for the healthcare community. And what we are targeting is mainly reduction in the emergency readmissions, which happens in case of CHF exacerbations cases, and then enhance the efficiency and accuracy for clinicians, because healthcare providers would be getting the alert and they would be able to manage their patients in a more better way. And then the current obtainable market in the US is $201 million market. And our value proposition is basically twofold. First is proactive alerts, which would be helping the healthcare providers. They will be increasing their efficiency for healthcare providers. And the second is improved health outcomes for the patient, because they would be treated faster and better. Moving on to the next slide. So with the initial technical evaluation, we came up with some capabilities and limitations of the product. So our biggest factor is that we are going to be using AI to kind of give CHF alerts. So for that, we've been getting a lot of data, and access to this data is something that came across as a challenge or limitation. And through our interviews, we also got on the working hypothesis to overcome that. And in terms of capabilities, the integration to the EHR devices is going to be fairly easy and seamless, since the EHR devices already have that API available. And for alternate applications, we are going with personalized care and early multi-disease prediction. So those are just the alternatives to our product. So I think can you move to the next slide? So to give a quick breakdown of the interview summary, so these are some of the key stakeholders that we spoke to from the healthcare providers, the healthcare tech industry, the healthcare providers, RPM manufacturing industry, the insurance policy experts, and some patients and patient advocates. And the insights that we mostly got were that there is a demand for predictive tools in healthcare, especially for data-driven decision making. There's a gap in the industry for that. Data accuracy is extremely crucial for our product, and for that, clinical trials are extremely important. Only then will we actually get to the market and prove that a product is usable and viable. And we can move to the next slide. Yeah. So, as of now, our working hypothesis is that there is a market where the buyers are willing to adopt our product, especially for the fact that it will reduce patient readmission rates, especially for congestive heart failure, and will also reduce cost.
there is a critical gap in terms of there are no devices that do data-driven insights and are proactive and preventative in their nature. So that also brings us to a patient-centric product. It is a preventative product, which is why patients would be inclined to use our product. And economic viability is the same thing, that the patient's readmission cost will be reduced. Therefore, it offers an economic profit to our healthcare providers or insurance providers. Yeah, moving on to the market analysis to check the viability of the product, we estimated our market size. We're starting with so our SOM is $6 million US. So we'll be targeting the CHF patients in the Midwest region of the US. And coming to a SAM, that would is worth of $201 million. It targets the CHF patients across US, and our TAM is $1.92 billion. So that would be like targeting the CHF patients across the world. And we have segmented our market into hospitals, managed care organizations, and elderly care and rehabilitation, and telehealth providers. So in case of hospitals, it will help us cut readmissions and reduce costs in managed care. It will provide quality care to the patients and also cut costs. In elderly care and rehabilitation, the continuous monitoring will help them from prevent like physical checks. And telehealth providers, this will help them to like extend their services to chronic conditions. Moving on to the next slide. So the market growth and technology hypothesis. So the three main factors for our market is increase in growth of CHF patients and adoption of providers to value-based care and remote monitoring. So if you see that there's like it's growing rapidly. Every year, like 6% of the providers are adopting towards value-based care. And also we see the stage here of providers adopting to RPM is growing at a rate of 17.3%. So there's like there's high trend. And if you're coming to technology hypothesis, we have three main technology hypotheses, that is predictive algorithms, remote patient monitoring, and data transparency. When it comes to predictive algorithms, by utilizing our AI algorithms, we'll be able to predict CHF very early on. That would be preventing hospitalization readmission rate. And remote patient monitoring, by continuous monitoring, it would help us to improve the patient care. And data transparency, it would help us to improve the trust and engagement between the patient and doctor.
So with the business model, so our pricing strategy is also very much aligned with the value-based care. So we are proposing a per patient-based subscription model, that is $30 per month, and that actually aligns with the current standard. And if you can run this. Yeah. So about our unit economics, we try to estimate what is the cost per patient, right? So our main variable costs are the cloud, compute, and the data store. And in the fixed cost, our main costs are the algorithm development, as well as the software development. So then we came up with a unit economics per patient to be like a contribution margin of $300 per year. Right? So that will take us to a break-even of approximately 9,000 patients and 37 providers. Yeah. That's thank you.
All right, thank you. So how long before you achieve break even? How many years or months?
So in the first year, we are targeting 10 providers. That is why we got.
So it'll take about 2 or 3 years. So are you subject to FDA approval for this technology?
No, we are class 1, so we are not into diagnosis.
Okay.
So diagnosis is of course it goes to class 2.
But your intelligence is predicting CHF. Right?
We are not predicting CHF. There are patients with the chronic condition. There are like for these patients, there are exacerbations cases where it gets into emergency conditions. and then the situation is very difficult to manage. So we are based on the previous trends of those patients and previous data. We are trying to predict those.
But it's not a diagnosis per se.
No, it's not a diagnosis. We are predicting the emergency conditions, and based on the alert, the healthcare providers can decide what steps to take.
So it falls into, I think, some sort of gray zone, right? It's an event prediction, which I don't think the FDA regulates, right?
Yeah, it's borderline.
It's borderline, yeah. I mean, they might call it a diagnosis, right?
Yeah.
That's what the Apple Watch does with heart attack. It says like, we're not doing a diagnosis, but you can check if you are having.
Right.
Yeah, but based on the engine list, we know that we should comply with HIPAA.
Yeah.
That goes beyond estimated.
Okay.
Like definitely HIPAA does. FDA not, because you're not diagnosing it. You're predicting that with this trend, eventually you may have some problem. And you
Right.
need up to the provider to make a decision. Yes.
If the healthcare provider buys the service, I think it is okay. But if the patient buys the service, you start running into potential problems. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Now, I think you guys did a great job, okay? The only thing is from your presentation, the benefactors of your product is at least scattered among 5 separate groups. Okay, it's the healthcare provider, it's the patient, it is the insurance company, it is the hospital, and as a result, in other words, you might have difficulty to have one of those paid for it and the other 4 freeloading. Okay, and it is nearly impossible to get the 5 silos who are beneficiaries of this to collaborate on buying the service from you. I think that's the single biggest challenge.
In the world of value-based medicine,
Yeah.
right? Wouldn't it just be the provider who benefits? Because financially, they're putting out the money for the service, but they're also reducing the risk of a recurrence, which is on them if they have to pay for it financially.
But
Right?
many instances, the provider is a cost-plus operation. Okay,
Well, that was value-based medicine. With value-based, it's a firm fixed price. They say, we're going to pay you a certain amount for, let's say, knee surgery.
Yeah.
And if that patient has to come back and get another update on the surgery, that's your problem, the provider, not the insurance company, right?
okay.
So that's what value-based medicine is all about. But not everybody does it. Not every insurance company implements it, and it's not on every procedure either. Right?
Correct. It is, in other words, it is still value-based for payment is still in its infancy, and
Yeah.
it is going to go through some cycles. And you could be a great benefactor, or it can kill you. One of the two. Okay, but there is no in between in that space.
Value model is really good what they have. The patient can get free device.
Yeah.
The insurance company is going to pay for it. I mean, we talk to insurance companies and they tell
Well, technically, the provider pays for it under the umbrella of the insurance company's reimbursement.
the provider will also pay for
The service.
cloud.
Yeah.
The cloud and monthly service. So, yeah, it would be cheap for them if they have like hundreds of patients.
But for example, on that very issue, if you take diabetes, that's taking it away from the heart. Okay, type 1 diabetics can get continuous remote monitoring of their glucose. Type 2 diabetes is 100 times more patients. They are not eligible for the monitoring service.
But the risks are lower too. The risks are lower as a result, right? Type 2 versus type 4.
Yeah, the ultimate risk is lower.
Yeah.
But the long-term effect, in other words, type 2 diabetes, the risk is you could all of a sudden end your life. In other words, the likelihood of making 90 years old on type 1 is relatively small. But type 2 diabetic, the ancillary cost and the cost of healthcare for a type 2 is actually larger than a type 1. Yet, the infinite wisdom of the financial community says, we're not going to provide you the monitoring opportunities to control it as well as it would. So all I'm saying is that you are going to have to navigate an evolving financial stream. It is not clear that your financial stream for this product is as simple as your presentation. The idea is fantastic, and your presentation is very well done.
Yes. So I don't like there are some interview with some of the companies who are doing similar things, but not in states of absolute space, but other space. They're all like targeting managed care organization who provide value, have like a network of value-based providers.
Yeah.
And so they are targeting such companies. I think like it's not very complicated.
But the value-based laws, the policy on which the value-based providers are working is still fluid. It is not very rock solid.
So what you're saying basically, you cannot use this application on all areas. You have to target certain areas that are profitable.
Yeah.
And Oscar, even insurance companies that will, have a value-based philosophy. I think what in many cases Medicare and Medicaid will set the tone and the way the government is now leaning towards efficiencies. Value-based will probably be one of their initiatives. So I think by hooking your gravy train, if you will, to the value-based proposition, I think you're going to find that over the long run, that's where the industry is going to go. And it'll be led in many cases probably by the federal government, because Medicare policies tend to trickle into the other policies, right?
Yeah.
The comment that I have is not more of the economic side or the business model, it's more of the technology. One of the risks that you also mentioned is the social psychology data on the patients. I mean, you can't have the same model across the board. So, okay, if your blood pressure is going up and your oxygen is then it all depends on the person's social psychology, mental behavior. So somehow, if you can include that in your model, some data getting across the world, and that data is available. If you can tune your model with that, or if you can somehow normalize with some parameter and say, okay, this data has been normalized this way, that include that, then it's the more viable prediction.
You clearly are putting a technological innovation into a space that is fluid, but potential of having success is very high. Keep going. Okay.
This is a definite need, and I think it's going to get there with or without you. So you might as well be at the head of the right. Nice job. Thank you. All right. FinTech is next. And with an eye towards being time efficient here, we're going to blow through any kind of break. So if people need to take a break, go ahead. But otherwise, I'd like to get the FinTech folks up here.
Yeah.
Ian, I didn't mean to skip over you. I know you're probably driving, but any comments?
Yes, one comment. In 5 minutes, can someone open the west door of tech? Because I'm here. But larger, back to the healthcare space, I think the key here is that you're integrating with existing remote patient monitoring networks. And so I think the key here is to follow the money, right? How are the existing RPM networks funded? How are they billing out their services? And how can you attach yourselves in a complementary way to those things such that the money flows naturally into the RPM and then through you into the larger network? So
You guys went down an RPM path early on, because I think of a random email that I received about RPM and I forwarded to you guys. Was that what caused you to go down this path?
We connected here.
It was kind of.
And all of that opened up all these doors, right?
Yes.
But it's a real need.
But the things what we learned from the interview is if we provide the right API, integration is seamless. So that's where we have that software development important to keep the API in place. And because all these companies follow certain standards like XL7 and things like that. So if our API is compliant to that, then integration is seamless with RPM as well as the EHP.
So this is where a systems integrator, which is effectively what you're becoming, right? Yeah. Understanding the role of APIs, how solid they are, what equipment supports it, what equipment doesn't. This allows you to create a technology strategy that allows you to create then a business strategy. So in a sense, it's working a little bit backwards compared to what most MBA programs or design programs would say. But frankly, you're recognizing an opportunity that a lot of others would have missed, right? Because you see that all these APIs are there for a reason. What the component people are saying is, we build sensors, we don't want to do systems, right? We want somebody else to do the systems. You guys are that somebody else, right? And in that sense, you're taking the risk of the components and the subsystems, and you're pushing that down, and you're saying, we will integrate this as a system, we will provide value to our users and customers, right?
There are a lot of providers that don't have state-of-the-art software. And the software is very unique. Their API is old-fashioned. They don't have money to if they could somehow bridge that gap, that's a huge market. I mean, I see a lot of individual doctors that they have a lot of good patients and good doctors, but their systems are old. Somehow you need to be able to API to them and be able to download the data.
You know who does systems integration largely, or at least in the early days of most technologies, is consulting firms. The Accentures of the world, E&Y. So these are the companies that you might want to target to say, hey, we're already working on these systems. We've already got a systems integration, kernel here that you can build on. So keep that in mind. The component folks, the device folks, they probably don't want to get into that business.
They're focused on the device.
Yeah, they want to make it better, and they have a whole bunch of probably other devices they want to make. But you can become that glue. Maybe you partner with them, but that's not a business they want to get into. That's a business they want to shed. And I know because even Motorola and all of its grandeur, we had, what was it, $50 billion business or something at one point. They hated doing systems, right? And they embraced it, at least with radio networks and land mobile products and what they call solutions today. They embraced it reluctantly, and they did it late in the game. And they actually were letting companies like PRC and IBM do integrations for them for a long, long time.
It doesn't have to be real-time system integration. I mean, for those legacy products, you can do batch mode. It can be like 3 times a day batch conductors. Conductors are so busy, they're not going to real-time check everybody's,
right.
I mean, you can give them like a notification when there is a issue come on. So they get notified. Do batch.
So when we talk to the radiologists, right? So they actually have a work list for the infrared. So when these kind of alerts happen, those can be pushed out. That's one idea.
So they already have that.
That's what they want. With these radiologists and doctors work on, because everybody has a certain specialty and they have a work list in fact. So this notification can actually help to prioritize.
Are any of you seriously considering to build a career in healthcare? Okay, I'm sorry.
They all self-selected these teams, so they did it based on their own career.
You definitely need to
push
into what you want.
I'm glad you made it. I was worried about you.
20 classes in a corner, oversleep once. Just kick myself for weeks.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. I mean, I was able to cover, so we got plenty of food if you're hungry.
Thank you. I appreciate Thank you so much. I appreciate you covering the beginning, and I appreciate that it's mostly online, so I didn't miss it.
Yeah. So, and it's all being recorded, even this, so we gotta be careful. Is Payway ready to get started? I don't want to take any time away from you.
Yes, Professor. We're good to go.
All right, folks, let's get back together. I know medical is always so exciting, but fintech's exciting too. Payway, you've got try to keep it to 10 minutes. Take it away.
Thank you, Professor. Good morning, everyone. Today, we are excited to present Payway, which is our blockchain-powered, AI-driven payment platform designed to revolutionize cross-border transactions. With our solution, what we aim is to eliminate the pain points of high fees, delays, and security concerns that plague the current payment systems. let's dive in. In terms of a team, we have 6 members, starting with Tanay, Ashar, Ashwini, Suchita, and Sanil, and myself, each of us with a diverse expertise in technology strategy and finance. What we have tried to do is we've tried to work together closely to identify the challenges in the cross-border payment space and build a product tailored to address them. Cross-border payment solutions are a critical lifeline for global commerce, but in our research, we identified that they face 3 major challenges. High transaction fees that strain finances, especially for SMEs and freelancers, delays in payment processing, which hinder cash flow and business growth, and primarily security concerns, making the traditional systems less reliable. Our objective is to design and implement a solution tailored to SMEs and freelancers, and our key goals include enabling lightning fast, low cost, and secure international transfers, building trust through AI-enhanced fraud detection and compliance systems, and laying the foundation for future AI-driven financial solutions like lending. Moving on to the next slide. In terms of an elevator pitch, right? Imagine transforming international payments from a slow, costly process into a seamless experience. That's exactly what Payway offers. Built on the Stellar network, Payway provides lightning fast transfers with minimal fees. We've minimized the currency conversion charges to keep more money in the users' pockets. Our focus is on empowering freelancers, SMEs, and e-commerce businesses to thrive in the global marketplace. With a user-friendly and secure platform, we plan to make cross-border payment solution as easy as ordering your favorite takeaway. The aim is to have as many users as we can join the Payway revolution and leave the outdated systems behind. I'll pass it off to Tanay to walk you through our core differentiators.
Yeah, thank you, Ashish. So, like, you must be thinking, like, this is like same as PayPal, or there are many other Ethereum based or like blockchain based setups. But our main technology differentiator is AI. So, using AI, we will be scalability and AI performance, like using AI powered transaction routing. So, we'll be able to find what is the slow, like the best transaction that route that we can follow in quick time. Also, we'll be using like enhanced security and fraud detection system, so that will be for like AI and ML for like money laundering and AI detection for smart audits that can be there. And also we'll be giving multi-layer security for architecture and data protections and cost and efficiency optimization. So we will be doing the hedging of the cost. So let's say a dollar is currently at this value compared to INR. So we'll be, with the help of AI, we can set up like currency hedging. So in that there will be predictive models which can set, okay, this will be the price for this amount of time. So we'll be using that. Another will be like, we are also giving a 24/7 user support, real-time chatbots with like AI and machine learning. And also we will be educating the persons about blockchain and this like the whole new era of AI and blockchain and this interface. So like, if we talk about our technical evaluation and the performance curve, so like initially, like AI powered routing, like which can achieve 3 to 5 seconds of settlement times, we can ensure a sub of 0.1% of our transaction cost. And then if we talk about security, like real time AI fraud and predictive scaling, the limitations depend upon like the blockchain and infrastructure and stability, because we are currently relying on Stellar blockchain. So maybe in the future we can think of another, or partnering with different blockchains as well to be that. And like limited cross-chain interoperability and with existing solutions and regulatory compliance that are always there in the fintech world. So if you see the performance curve, so as the transaction volume increases, initially the efficiency is low, but when we reach at a certain point with all the data that we have, the efficiency will be the maximum, and we can be able to sustain, as like if the transaction volume increases that much also, the efficiency will be the maximum that we can offer. Talking about what is our preferred application and evaluation of alternatives. So our preferred application is, currently we will be focusing on SMEs and freelancers, because they do most of the transactions and they require fast, secure, and affordable transactions. And we are focusing on underdeveloping banking structures like Africa, India, Latin America, because they do transactions from one country to another and they are also developing. And like the future prospects could be like, we can use the data of SMEs and also give them like landing opportunities. So like AI landing, so we can give them some interest loans with some amount of interest depending upon how much they are transacting with us. And then the alternative application is like e-commerce platform. So like we can benefit from AI optimized blockchain, and then like if we talk about China, they have like Temu, Shein. So we can also go in that, and then the price currency conversions can be done. And if you talk about gig economy platforms, that is like Upwork and Freer. So they hire like short-term employees in other countries, and then we can partner with them and eventually build a whole ecosystem of payments with that. So now I'll pass on to Suchita for market and technology hypothesis.
Thank you, Tanay. So for the target segments, as we have spoken earlier, that SMEs and freelancers are the major target segments which we hope that they are going to adopt this technology. The key regions where we see growth is countries like Africa and regions like Africa, Latin America. The reason we feel that is because these countries have rapid digital adoption and with limited traditional banking access. Also, the high freelancers and SME activity is going to drive demand for faster and affordable payments. Now, the technology hypothesis for our Payway platform is that we have this AI-powered tool which is going to streamline transactions routing and reduce the delays to 3 to 5 seconds. In addition to this, we are going to use Stellar blockchain which will lower the intermediary cost and make the payment more affordable as well as transparent. This solution is scalable. I'm sorry. Yeah, this solution is scalable because it adopts predictive scaling, which will ensure high performance during peak transaction loads. And also, in addition to this, it will enhance the user experience because we are going to provide a personalized onboarding and 24/7 support, which will simplify adoption for SMEs, freelancers, and other target customers. Next slide, please. Yeah. So we based on our interviews and whatever feedback we got from different people, we believe that 80% of the customers would adopt faster and cheaper payment solutions. The SMEs have shown strong interest in blockchain for cost saving because the present solutions are not effective enough, and they have a huge cut based on each transaction. In addition to this, e-commerce platforms also see blockchain as a for boosting global sales. Security concerns and all these reasons overall validate our technology. There is willingness to pay. So buyers clearly have pain points with the existing system because of the fees, the exchange rates, and long delays. In addition to this, we have high administrative overhead, and so all these things overall validate our technology. Now I'll pass to Sanil. Thank you.
Thank you, Suchita. So here's a competitive analysis of Payway against PayPal, Wise, and Ripple. Payway stands out with minimal transaction fees, eliminating currency conversion costs, and near instant transaction speeds of about 3 to 5 seconds. And that is all powered by stellar blockchain technology and the AI-driven security that we have. Targeting SMEs, freelancers, and e-commerce businesses, Payway offers a cost-effective, highly scalable solution for high transaction volumes. What sets us apart are real-time dynamic fee adjustments, AI-driven fraud prevention, and predictive scaling to ensure seamless performance under heavy loads. Additionally, we have automated KYC, AML compliance, enabling faster onboarding and reducing regulatory overhead. By combining all these factors such as speed, affordability, and cutting-edge AI, I believe Payway positions itself as the preferred choice for modern businesses seeking innovation and reliability in the fintech space. Now, moving to the beachhead market analysis. Basically, it more in a way it identifies a clear pathway for success to the kind of success that we need by focusing on the undeserved and highly potential areas. The total addressable market is estimated to be $525 million, targeting SMEs, freelancers, and e-commerce platforms globally. From this, we have narrowed down our serviceable available market to 262.5 million, focusing on regions such as Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America, where cross-border transactions are rapidly increasing. These regions present a significant opportunity as they include growing influence of SMEs, freelancers, and e-commerce businesses that are actively seeking cost-effective and scalable solutions. Our serviceable obtainable market focuses on achievable goals over the next 3 years, and we aim to capture 2% of those SMEs, that is worth about 5.25 million, and 1% of freelancers, that is about 2.63 million, and 1% of e-commerce platforms, that is about 2.63 million, resulting in a total sum of about 10.5 million annually. This structure approach positions us to effectively penetrate these markets, establish a strong foothold, and capitalize on the growing demand for the innovative payment solutions in regions that have been historically undeserved. Now, on to the next.
Okay.
Over to you, Ashwini.
I'll take it from here. Thank you, Sanil. So we are going to talk about further about the unit economics and the techno economics inside of the payway what we are building together. Here's a split of the economics model what we are going to follow. So we have actually doubled down and divided this transaction into two major bucket. One is transaction based on for individual customers, which are like freelancers or maybe e-commerce freelancers and on-demand artists. Second one are type of SMEs, companies like e-commerce. For each transaction, we have estimated to earn around 20 cents, which is like $0.2, with the cost of $0.05 on each, and have a gross margin of $0.15. So the major takeaway from here, what we are expecting here is the cost of enabling each transaction, which is like $0.05, and this is because the underlying technology what we are using, that's blockchain. And moreover, not just because of the blockchain, but also because of the scalability of blockchain, along with the open source availability of the technology what is available as of now. So if you look at the customer segment, for individual customers with an annual revenue of $120, we will have a customer acquisition cost of $40 on each, leading to a ratio of lifetime value to customer acquisition cost of 9.9.0, which is quite good as of now as per the market standards. Whereas if you look at the SMEs and e-commerce, they will generate around $3,500 annually in revenue, with an acquisition cost of $900, leading us to a ratio of 23.33, which is quite high in terms of acquiring SMBs and SMEs. Now, if you move on to the techno-economic insights, if we deep dive and try to understand what are the insights what we have found and how it's going to be beneficial for us in the longer term, our transaction processing leverages blockchain for cross-border platform. As we said, this will allow us to maintain the operating cost like extreme low, which is like $0.05. It seems like to be very low, but this is like the dollar amount per transaction. And since expectation of this transaction volume is expected to grow, that's why we are expecting per transaction cost to come down to such a small amount. So when it comes to scalability, we are seeing a gross margin of for about like 75%, which indicates strong potential for growth. And as our customer base expands, economies of scale will help us bring down the cost exponentially and increase the profitability of the company. So we have segmented our customer into two main groups, which is individuals such as freelancers, as my colleagues have helped you understand in the previous slide, and which also includes e-commerce platforms and SMEs. Our revenue streams are equally diverse among them, having $100 annually for each individual and $1,000 annually for the businesses. But our prime focus is going to be on individual, because the size of population is pretty big, and the potential to convert them to make them use Payway is also pretty big compared to SMEs and SMBs, just comparing for each one of them. So looking at the performance matrix before we close, we are achieving a blend of ratio of 12.47, which is growing in terms of industry standards, and we expect this to grow in the upcoming 5-year model. And I would like to can you change the slide, Tanay? So yeah, in conclusion, our base model of using blockchain technology to enable cross-border platform is expected to grow in not just in terms of users, but also in terms of revenue, and enable people to have a seamless transactions and reduced cost per transaction in future. Thank you.
All right, nice job. I guess my input is I think you've missed some markets here. There's a lot of opportunity with migration, remote workers that are international real estate transactions, anyone who's buying real estate overseas. The refugee problem kind of links to the migration problem, but with it comes the need to move finances back and forth. So I think all of them, including even international students, I mean, focus is still, there's, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of international students in countries like the US, Australia, and the UK. So all of them are going to be looking for something like this. So I think you've got a great analysis here. It makes sense that AI can be used to basically apply machine learning techniques to understanding the nature of the risk associated with any transaction. And basically by automating that, you can reduce the time frame, which makes it more compelling.
I think they did a great job in terms of putting the final touch in the strategy and the technology strategy. From the transaction-based fee of 1 cent per transaction, I would think that if you look at transaction and the amount, because you don't want somebody sending like $20, pay the same thing as they sending like $9 for example. So if you have a combination of transaction and amount, that would be an additional revenue for you. And from your limitation perspective, you mentioned the blockchain and cloud and the regulatory compliance being a limitation. From blockchain and cloud, as the technology advances, their availability, their price model, they all will go. They become more available. They become more reliable. So those limitations really go away. It's not as much limitation for you as you progress in the business. But the regulatory is going to increase. There will be more people. There will be more countries. There will be more regions. They have this regulation. There will be the government puts a lot of what do they call it? Blacklist.
Yeah.
So you have to continuously monitor that, and that would be your big Achilles heel for you in terms of moving the money.
Yeah, I think as we've brought up a few times, and you did touch on the regulatory aspect, but this is a very, very, to Hamid's point, this is a very, very regulated space. And that regulatory burden is going to add significant cost layers, and it's going to be region and country specific. Because getting the digital data into a country, into someone's account in country, is not a challenge. Getting it out of that account and transition into the country's local monetary supply, that's a necessary touch point with that regulatory environment in that particular country and or region. And each one of those countries and or regions is going to have a different regulatory framework and a different associated burden with that. And so your cost structure is going to be directly dependent on which markets you choose to grow into first, which markets you beachhead into, and your expansion plans therein. So I love the ideas. I love the central core concept of AI routing of the transactions for efficiency. That logically makes a lot of sense. It tracks that you could gain a lot of efficiencies and thereby a lot of value from that. But again, I think you need to translate that potential value through the lens of the various regulatory systems that are out there. And I think that would be my immediate next steps.
Yeah, I think that your analysis could include, in other words, a fixed cost to access a specific market, as well as a variable cost independent of the number of clients you have. And then add that to your analysis. I definitely feel you need to keep your analysis of the lifetime value versus the cost of client acquisition as part of your presentation and your business model by looking at that rather than just on the single element. You did a great job in that area, which is not frequently done by startups. So keep that up, but add the dimension, not just developing this money flow process and its cost as a single flow, but treat it as an aggregate or a portfolio of flows where each portfolio has its own fixed costs.
Well, I was going to just mention that if you remember the Beta Golf case, right? We looked at different ways of going to market. And so far, most of you have fallen into, well, let's just create a brand. Let's just create a product. Let's go to market with a whole new company. And that's probably both the highest risk and, yes, the highest reward. But when you have established brands like PayPal that have been around for 20 plus years, right? The enormous amount of marketing costs have probably been underestimated by each of your teams. So I would consider, the Intel Inside model, which is basically you've got technology, you're selling it to PayPal. PayPal is your customer, right? And they can leverage your encryption and your AI and your technology to speed up their own processing. Let them worry about going to market. Let them worry about acquiring customers. You keep progressing your technology, and then you can take that kind of technology to other domains outside of fintech, right?
All right.
That would be another option, but so far I haven't seen too many teams consider that, right? You've always assumed in most cases, we're just going to go to market. We got to figure out which market to go to, right? When in fact, your customer might be your competitor.
One final comment I have for you is regarding your beachhead. You identify beachhead as the underdeveloped banking countries and those. That's good and bad. Good that, yes, there is the potential revenue. Your entrance is easier, and there's a lot of people moving transactions. The bad thing is that those countries are not stable, and the money system, there is a high level of inflation. So there is a government money exchange, which is not happening. I mean, you have to do money according to government exchange. But people, they do in the black market 10, 20, 30 times more than that. So a lot of people, they use cash. They're not going to use your system. So that's bad because they're not going to come to your system with, regular government.
I bet you Venezuela's got some interesting stories.
So yeah. My son is going to Argentina. That's exactly what they told him. They said, don't exchange money through the bank or anything. Because you get 10 or 20 times more.
In Venezuela, we got a time that it was 100 times more.
I know in Venezuela it's like 1,000 now. I think
it got better 5 years ago because they went broke, so they needed the money and they matched the black market. But we've been transacting in the black market for the past 50 years.
Whatever has come
and
down.
None of these things we have a lot of entrepreneurships. They've been trying, but the government shuts them down as soon as they see that they're doing good.
Soon it reaches any level of
Success.
stable value.
And success, right?
Swoop in.
Right.
Yeah, they have to leave the country even.
Yeah. Wow. That's the bad part of dealing with underdeveloped countries. You have a hard time.
And the inflation rate is such that, every day, every hour, every minute can mean the difference between making and losing money. So, right. The float is true even in stable economies, right? So the banking institutions want to hold your even getting a refund from Amazon, for God's sakes, right? I've been waiting on refunds in some cases for 7 days. Tell me within the US that Amazon really requires 7 days to process a refund on something I returned, a TV that was broken, right? It doesn't take them 7 days. They want the float. They want that money in their bank account, earning interest. That's 7 days multiplied by every customer that's got a return becomes a source of revenue, source of income, right?
No question about it. And that's why in many instances, these delayed transactions are not due to efficiency.
Right. And they're not due to technology either.
But even if they use the best technology, they will induce a delay for their financial objective.
Right.
It's paying out, delay, it's the number one rule of business, right?
But exactly.
You want to pay right away, but you want to pay like 30 days.
So once I was involved in a class action suit, the law firm contacted me and said, "Oh, you qualify for this $400 check. We're going to send you within the next 6 months." And I paused and I said, 6 months. He said, "Yeah, but we can get you your money a lot earlier. We can get it within 30 days, but we're going to have to discount it 50%. So we're going to send you a $200 check in 30 days or a $400 check in 6 months." I said, "That's not much of a choice. I think I'll take the 6 months. Thank you." Right? Why am I going to take a 50% discount unless I'm desperate for the money? Right? And I'm sure there's people in the world who say, "Give it to me now. I need to pay my bills today." Right? And they're counting on that, right?
They know.
Exactly.
Right now. You take your paycheck, you cash it there, they give you a fraction.
Yeah, these payday loans that you see everywhere, stay away from them.
Highly profitable.
Oh my God! Once they've got their hooks in you, it's very difficult to extract. So unless you're totally desperate, right, stay away from payday loans. You did?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I know they're in and out.
The easiest way for anyone to get a handle on that enormous, obscene marketplace is the lottery.
Yeah.
Getting it paid over your lifetime versus getting it up front.
Right.
Okay, it's always less than half that you get.
If you get it up front or if you get it paid over time.
If you get it paid over time, that is what they tell you.
Yeah.
Then when you look into it and you want to have it now, you get it less than half.
Right.
And that is the easy way to explain it to people, is that analyze it, and don't accept anything until you have someone give you the discount rate that they apply.
And this is we're teetering on the course we call finance or engineering finance, right? Yeah. So when you take engineering economics or engineering finance, they'll go through what the time value of money is. So you're basically asking, what's the return on investment, or what's the internal rate of return? What's the IRR of this stream of money?
Correct. Yeah. A lot of people make mistakes on that.
Yep.
And even if you if you do an economic or even an income statement over 5 years, and you address an investor, put in a discount rate and show them that what you're telling them in year 7 through 10 has very little initial value for their decision making. And if you communicate that to your investors, your credibility goes up a notch.
Yep. All right, let's move on to hydrogen, team 5. All right. I guess you call it team 4. So team 4, hydrogen, take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone. Tanmay here from Team Hydrogen, and we're excited to present our idea on how hydrogen-based power backup solutions can be a really interesting opportunity. Next slide, please. So our team is made up of 5 people, Nikhil, Pranav, Priya, Harshit, and myself. Next slide. Okay, so coming to the primary hypothesis for picking this idea, there's a clear gap here, which is that the backup power system, the entire market is captured by one single technology, which is diesel generators. There's a couple of problems with diesel generators. First of all, they're not very operationally efficient. They generate a lot of emissions from the entire process of extracting that diesel and refining it and then delivering it to the diesel generator itself, and then obviously the operation of the DG itself. So that's the main problem that we feel with diesel generators. Our idea plans to eliminate all of these hurdles. First of all, we are going to produce our own green hydrogen through renewable sources, so that there's zero emissions in the generation of the fuel itself. Then we're going to transport it to our clients, and that process also hopefully will be as minimal emissions as possible. And then finally, we believe that hydrogen fuel cells offer us the scalability and adaptability that is lacking with diesel generators. Fuel cells can easily be added on as time goes, and because we are controlling the hydrogen supply as well, we feel like it's a good mix of scalability and reliability. And then finally, we'll get more into this later, but data centers are our primary customer. Right now, data centers make up around 1% of global electricity use annually, but that number is expected to trend upwards. There's no reason to believe that it won't go upwards from here. And so even supplying backup power to just data centers would be a big chunk of the energy use. So coming to the technical evaluation, there's 3 steps to the process. The first is the electrolysis, which is where we generate the hydrogen itself. Currently, with the technology we have right now, we are at 70 to 80% efficiency in generating hydrogen from any other source of electricity. The good part about the system is it's scalable, and here we plan to collaborate with a lot of renewable energy developers to use their electricity when they're at their peak. A lot of renewable energy plants have a peak generation time where their supply is actually more than their demand, and that electricity goes to waste. This is where we hope to plug in our electrolyzers and generate hydrogen at much lower cost to us than it would have cost to like actually purchase electricity and do it that way. The limitation here is that the electrolysis process right now is very energy intensive. It's 50 to 55 kilowatt hours per kilogram of hydrogen produced. That is mainly a technological limitation that we hope gets better. We're already seeing some progress in this area, but over the next 5 to 10 years, we do believe that the energy intensity required to generate hydrogen is going to reduce, which makes our value proposition that much better. The second part of the process is the hydrogen storage and transportation. So hydrogen transportation is a tricky subject. At high pressures, it can get a little volatile. And we obviously, safety is the key to making this entire thing work. So for hydrogen storage and transportation, we have also researched quite a lot of different companies that have a way to basically capture all that hydrogen gas, convert it into a solid without actually using electricity. It's a passive process, so that saves us a lot of operational cost going into the storage side. Harness is a good example of that. So that's where we'll use some other partners to kind of store that hydrogen safely and transport it. And then the final piece of the puzzle is the hydrogen fuel cells, which will go into all of the client locations. And that's basically the generator part of the entire setup, where the hydrogen we supply will go into these fuel cells to generate electricity with 0 emissions. Currently, the technology is at around 60% efficiency. Again, this is something that's being worked on almost on a yearly basis, and it's going up. So hopefully we can see some gains in that area as well. Next slide, please. So the primary market that we are targeting right now is data centers, network operation centers, and security operation centers. We have picked these areas mainly because they have an initiative to go green, and they're willing to invest in a new technology, like we saw with Microsoft buying the 3 Mile Island plant. These examples exist, and as data centers continue to grow, we believe that they will start requiring other backup solutions apart from diesel generators. Next slide. So through our interviews, the key insights that we received for this target market is that downtimes are really expensive for data centers, so our solution has to be really reliable. And then the other thing is the total cost of ownership for the hydrogen model should come out to somewhere in the range that they see with diesel generators as well. And only when that happens can we actually look at these big companies seriously evaluating hydrogen as a viable solution. So currently, and Pranav will talk about this a little bit later, but there is an IRA tax incentive that can significantly reduce our
cost in the entire process of generating hydrogen by around 3 kgs per kilogram, and that really helps this whole business model work together. Some of the secondary applications that we also pursued were disaster recovery. Because hydrogen systems are so portable and scalable, we can use them in situations where the grid is down through hurricanes or earthquakes, and we need backup electricity immediately. And then other things such as public infrastructure backup for hospitals, schools, and airports, and then remote power supply for applications where there's a crew working out in the middle of nowhere and they need access to electricity for mining or film or TV production, things like that. With that, I'll hand it over to Pranav to go over some of the market dynamics.
Yeah. Next slide, please, Harshit. Next, yeah. Coming to the market size, the hydrogen-based backup solution can address a large and a growing market. So we assume the TAM to be around $25 billion, of which we can target around $12 billion with hydrogen. This includes all industries globally that need reliable backup power. Then coming to the SAM, we can target developed regions like North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific, which are more sustainability focused. And we can try, so the SAM comes up to around $4 billion. And finally, the serviceable obtainable market is around $200 to $400 million if we focus on large corporations in sectors like data centers and telecom that prioritize sustainability and reliability. Moving next slide, Harshit. Yeah, coming to market segmentation, we're segmenting in two ways, by industry and by region. In industry, mainly data centers, healthcare, and telecoms are going to be the primary targets due to their high energy demands and commitment to sustainability goals. Secondary application, like Tanmay has spoken, include disaster recovery, critical public infrastructure, where hydrogen can serve as a reliable backup solution. Coming to by region, North America and Europe, because of the strong regulatory support and the infrastructure investments going on in these regions currently. And Asia Pacific, because it's a growing market with big strides in the renewable energy advancements. We assume this market to have a CAGR of around 12 to 18%. And moving on to the techno-economics, we're comparing our hydrogen fuel cells with diesel generators and lithium-ion batteries. So hydrogen fuel cells currently cost around $1,500 to $3,000 per kilowatt to install. With future costs, with advancements, the costs are expected to drop down $200 to $400 per kilowatt. DGs and lithium-ion batteries have lower initial costs, but they do not meet sustainability goals or the long duration requirements needed for this industry. Coming to operation cost, we assume hydrogen systems can cost 0.086 to 0.129 kilowatt per hour. This is by assuming we can price the hydrogen at $2.5 to $4 per kilowatt hour. Sorry, per kg. Currently, the price of hydrogen is around $6 per kg for green hydrogen. So if we can bring it down to 2.5 to 4, then the operating costs are going to be lower than what diesel generators is currently around 0.1, and for lithium ions around 0.25. Total energy costs are in the range of $25 to $37.5 per MMBTU, and it's more or less competitive with diesel and significantly lower than lithium ion. Moving on to our business model. Yeah, so our core revenue streams are going to be a one-time installation charge where customers pay us $50,000 to set up fuel cells, then recurring maintenance costs of around $10,000. And then our main source of revenue is going to be the hydrogen that we sell them, which we are planning to price around $2.5 or $4 per kg. And then another major thing is the IRA tax credit called 45V, where they provide $3 per kg for every kg of green hydrogen produced. So with this, we assume significant revenue source annually. And yeah, coming to our unit economics. Yeah, we assume if you charge around $2.5 per kg, we can have a net profit around $800,000 per year, considering we install a 1 megawatt capacity of electrolyzer. And at $4, the profit increases to around $1.1 million per year. With this, a break-even period of roughly around 2 years. provided we have an electrolyzer installed capacity of around 1 megawatt a year. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Any questions?
Nice job. Thank you. Any comments?
Putting myself in decision-making role of a data center. Why would I want to assume any risk of technology or a backup situation for me to justify a sustainable decision? All I have to do is decrease percentage of time I'm running on backup power to make my formula come out the way I want to.
You can't choose what percentage of the time you're running on backup power. That's a function of the grid itself, right? And the stability of the grid.
Yeah.
Bloom Energy has been in this business for a long time, supplying hydrogen-based fuel cells for data centers. So you can ask them, how is it you've been able to stay in business all this long? Right?
Correct. That would be one of my serious questions, because I would focus my sustainability investment and my technology risk for the operation, but not for the backup. If I would be the decision maker for that data center.
Is there that much risk in fuel cells?
From my perspective, relative to being able to keep a diesel system running, I got a legion of people within a half an hour that will take care of it if it malfunctions.
And you've got dozens of failure modes, everything from running out of fuel to having congealed fuel because it's been it's frozen, the environment's too cold. There's so many ways that a diesel generator can fail, even for lack of maintenance, right? Filters that haven't been changed, all sorts of things, right?
I think there's a lot of real world push in the direction of this being a viable business model. Mark's point, Bloom Energy, they just signed a massive contract specifically to provide exactly this service to exactly this customer base, which is not to say don't do that, don't look there. Look there. I mean, you're getting real world feedback that there is viability here. The challenge that I see from where you are here to where Bloom is that there are many stacked assumptions in the model. Just one, for instance, the CapEx for hydrogen electrolyzers compared to lithium-ion batteries and diesel generators. You're saying right now it's $1,500 to $3,500, and in the future it's going to be $200 to $400. I mean, you're hoping, and you use the word hope a couple times in the presentation. You're hoping that those costs are going to come down by an order of magnitude, and unless
the others stay stagnant.
Yeah, while other things are, maybe not changing. So without direct control over all of these different technological assumptions, these hopes that the technology is going to get to where you need it to be, all of those variabilities are going to stack and they're going to compound, and your probability distribution of potential revenues is going to be incredibly wide and very difficult to nail down. So while the real world is telling us that there is something here, I think that part of the reason that Bloom Energy is where they are is that they've spent a decade or more quantifying those technological risks, understanding the variabilities and what they can and cannot influence. And so I think you just need to dive a little bit more deeply into the technology and the application of that technology to either eliminate, narrow down the variability or remove some of the variables from the stack.
Another way of looking at it is techno-economics. By the way, this team went further and better in terms of techno-economics, in terms of the intent of what techno-economics is all about, which is a comparative analysis to existing technologies. Where they could have gone a little bit further, I think, is having a series of curves that are time-based. So if you want to start with 2024 for the next 10 years, what does the curve look like? So this gets to the point of hope. Hope is not a method, right? Do the curves indicate that in any kind of realistic way that the costs for this technology will at least catch up with, if not overcome, the competitive technologies? So And frankly, you had a matrix there, a technological evaluation. It was very busy, and I think you need to have a little bit more of a summary that shows what points you're trying to extract from that chart. Don't expect that a grid is going to be instantly understandable by an audience in the 90 seconds you're giving them to understand it. You have to showcase and highlight the things, the squares, if you will, the cells in the matrix that you want them to focus on. Harshit, you had something you wanted to mention?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with your points. But our business model is more based on not what exactly Bloom is doing. So the Bloom's business model is providing the hydrogen fuel cell. And then what they do is they act as a solution architect for your existing setup, and then how fuel cells will integrate with all of yours. Our piece comes in, how do Bloom Energy get their fuel cell? Is where we come. So to leverage that, we have identified key areas and features that are running. So in North America, you have certain amount of energy generation fields like solar and wind, a lot of them spread across data centers, like in a vicinity of 50 to 100 miles radius. So what we are doing, what we want to do is we want to harness that additional energy with a setup with creating a hydrolysis setup where we can produce those hydrogen fuel, hydrogen in gas or liquid form, and then pack it up and send it to the end customer of Bloom. So that is where, so initially what we were thinking of doing is doing the end-to-end process by ourselves. But after you guys' suggestion, we kind of pivoted. So we looked at the transportation and logistics factor more, because that is one of our key advantage, is trying to localize that power generation so that it stays controlled within those regions, and then accelerating that growth into different sectors. That is what we were kind of looking. I mean, others can also add sort of.
That makes sense. Yeah, there's a pitch market for you to start with, and that is, I think, Poland alluded to that instead of like backup, choose the main source and focus on highly polluted cities and countries. I mean, that's where there's great need of a solution like that for their factories, for their businesses, that we have the main source. And that would be a great benchmark.
Yeah, where if your power source is required in double-digit percentage of uptime, this is the solution.
Mm-hmm.
But if your power system that your main power grid gives you, in other words, 0.01% backup power need.
Right. Four digits or 5 digits, right?
This runs into a decision-making problem.
Well, it becomes that
easily chose data center because they have norms for them to maintain 90. Yeah. That is pure and pure regulation for tier 1 data centers. And from 2024, 80 to 85% of the data centers that are tier 1. They should have N plus N redundancy. That means if they have 10 UPSs for backup, they need 10 UPSs to maintain that 99.9%. So taking that into consideration, data center, firstly, why we chose that market is because the volume and secondly the large adoption. These two are the main key factors for us to really hit that mark. And I agree with your point that okay, it's not that we are hoping on or we are banking on something that would work. But the reason we chose this specific market is because if data center if we are able to crack that through data center, that's eventually going to be loved by everyone else. Because that is when the entire solution commercialization will happen, and that is when the prices are going to drop. We will have better electrolyzers, we will have better reach, we will have better solutions out there, and we were trying to actually figure that.
I definitely feel, and I'm just giving you a perspective of it, being in a C capacity decision making, that I would clearly pick the hydro backup over lithium ion because I wouldn't want to be a supply chain competitor in the market of lithium ion batteries. Okay, that is going to be volatile up and down enormously. So I strictly take the hydrofuel cell versus the old standby that I understand. Okay, and don't forget this, the sea people are very prone to feel comfortable with what they can understand versus what they are being told. Okay, many of the decision makers are not going to really fully understand the hydrofuel cell.
Right.
And as a result, you have to overcome that hurdle because the decision makers are more of my age than your age. Okay.
The supply chain argument is a good one, though, right? I mean, if the supply chains for lithium iron or lithium ion batteries are based in, geopolitical issues that are going to be plaguing us for years, if hydrogen can be sourced, the electrolyzers sourced locally, you've got a huge advantage there. So, all right, let's move on. Final team, precision fermentation / food. You're up next.
Yeah, I'll start sharing my screen. Anna?
Can I start? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, go ahead.
Take it away, guys.
Okay. So we are precision fermentation. Rose, can you go to the next slide? So this is our team. So it's Madhavi, Rose, Niharika, Mahesh, Manisha, and myself. Next. And so just okay. So yeah, in terms of just like a brief on what precision fermentation is, it's the genetic modification and fermentation of microorganisms to create organic molecules. Over here, we kind of have like a walkthrough of essentially how the process is entailed. Our project specifically is focused on milk food, milk for infants. We can go to the next slide. Yeah, so in terms of like our technology differentiation strategy, our primary focus would be advanced bioactive protein synthesis. So essentially, when comparing to other methods that would copy basic milk proteins like casein or whey, our technology takes it to the next level by producing proteins that are more functional and closely resemble those that are found in human milk. And we do this by using two innovative techniques. So the first one we have written over here, that's protein structuring technology, PST. This one helps us shape and assemble proteins to match human milk proteins almost perfectly. So we're able to essentially get like a perfect replica, essentially. Then we have enzyme assist fermentation. This adds important finishing touches to the proteins like sugar molecules, which are essential for health benefits. And these techniques allow us to make proteins that help babies absorb iron better, boost their immune system, and improve their gut health. And absorbing iron better is very good for brain development. And then while it's also it's gentler on the digestive system as well. In order to actually facilitate this and do it in an efficient and cost-effective way, we build a smart fermentation monitoring system. The system keeps a close eye on the production process, ensuring consistent quality while reducing the cost by 15%. So essentially, a big part of what sets us apart is the unique health benefit in terms of like the market need. We don't just mimic texture, but we also offer benefits of breast milk like gut health, brain health, and immunity as well. So this would make ours like a game changer in addressing infant nutrition challenges. In terms of, back real quick, sorry, Rose. In terms of like the PST that we mentioned above, it is protected by a patent. So instead of like, this again is another benefit for us in terms of things being more cost efficient and efficient, because instead of building everything from scratch, we would aim to explore ways to legally use their technology. Okay, next slide. Competitor analysis, we were able to do like an exploration of what sets us apart further. So our main competitors being Perfect Day, Turtle Tree, the Every Company, and Remilk, where they have various weaknesses where some don't focus on bioactivity as much as we do, and some don't target infant nutrition, or the emphasis on taste is not placed as well. So this in itself essentially is what sets us apart. Next slide. And then within the marketplace, the main things that would set us apart, again, to reiterate, is that we're the first in the market to offer customized bioactive proteins. And then that's the enhanced nutritional profile. Then sustainability leadership as well. Precision fermentation platform reduces resources by 40%, offering the lowest carbon footprint in infant formula production, which is obviously a natural selling point, especially nowadays. Then we have the customizable formulation, ability to create niche products for medical and dietary needs as well. That would also be as we expand our market. I'm going to hand over to Rose now.
Thanks, Hannah. So I'll start with the market size estimation. So the total global infant formula market is estimated to reach 110 to 120 billion by 2032. And around 40% of it is the US market, so which estimates to approximately 45 billion. And then the service addressable market is, we consider it to be 15 billion, who are the affluent parents in the US. And then 1 billion is our service obtainable market. So this is the share of the service addressable market that our business can realistically capture. So we estimated around 6% penetration of the service addressable market. And these are basically our target customer segments. So our beachhead is US affluent parents, and our secondary customers are parents seeking specialty formulas and environmentally conscious parents. And we also look forward to institutional customers, basically premium and birthing centers, private hospitals, upscale baby boutiques, and then future expansion to international markets, upper middle class parents. And this slide breaks down the customer valuation for our product by segmenting our target audience into 4 key groups, like the customer segments which I mentioned earlier: beachhead market, secondary market, institutional customers, and expansion market. And we used different subscription duration for these various customer segments because basically they are different. Like beachhead market are affluent parents, but institutional customers, we are assuming that we can have them once they start using us, we can have them for 3 years. And when we considered 50% retention during this subscription duration, which translates to annual churn rate of these numbers. And then the customer acquisition cost we consider to be 20% of the customer lifetime value of each customer. And for our revenue calculations, this is the pricing model which we used. For our beachhead customers, we assumed $50 per can premium pricing and 3 containers per month. For secondary customers, since it is a premium and specialty formulas, we are assuming $55 and 3 containers per month again. And for institutional customers, we are expecting them to order at least 200 containers per month. So we'll give them a bulk discount, and their cost will be less than the other beachhead and secondary customers. And for future expansion to international markets, we are expecting to price it at $55 to adjust for global pricing and logistics, and again 3 containers per month. And this is the sales quantities and the revenue calculations. So by 2027, we are expecting to expand. We are expecting to start large scale production. And in 2027, we'll be going to our beachhead market, expecting 100,000 households. And then in 2028, we'll expand the product range to secondary and institutional customers. And then by 2029, we are expecting to go to we are expecting for global market entry. And then and we have projected the growth of this market, like beachhead market, 10% annual growth, and secondary market, since it's specialty formulas, we are expecting 8% annual growth. And institutional, we are not expecting a large growth, so we assumed 5%. And global expansion, we are expecting a higher market growth, like 12%, because of rising international adoption. And then these are some of our fixed costs. So basically our fixed costs are really high in the year 2027 because of the scaling up of our facility. And after that, we have a stable fixed cost of 13 million per year. So in our fixed costs, we consider R&D investments, facility setup, and some regulatory compliances. And then we are expecting a high cost for marketing and education, because since precision fermentation for infant nutrition, it's something which is new, and we want to create more awareness. So at least in the initial years, we are expecting to invest heavily in the marketing side. And then quality control and testing, licensing fees, IP protection, plant maintenance. So all this add up to our fixed costs. And this is our variable cost. So raw material, labor, packaging, distribution. So we did a thorough market research and we came up with these numbers. So we are trying to be on the conservative side. So we put some higher numbers than what is available, but we are expecting it will be lower, but we wanted to be on the conservative side so that we can see when whether our numbers will make sense. And then from this analysis, you can see that we start generating a profit in 2028, even though our scale up is in 2027. That's because in the year 2027, we have a higher fixed cost because of the scaling up of the facility. It was 125 million. That's why we are still negative in 2027, but we are expecting to generate profit from 2028. And we did a basic break-even analysis also. And now I'll give it to Manisha to continue with customer discovery interviews and next steps.
Thank you, Rose. So in order to frame our business and market strategy, we have interviewed various stakeholders, including parents, healthcare providers, and industry specialists. These interviews revealed that nutritional safety, sustainability, and transparency are most critical factors. Additionally, feedback from Professor Mark provided a much needed pivot in refining our customer selection. So as we move forward, we will engage with technology license holders, including leading startups and research institutions, to secure fermentation platforms and explore co-development opportunities for customized solutions. Alongside these efforts, we will be partnering with food technologists and ingredient suppliers to refine the product formulations. And these steps are critical to achieve the transition between from development to market readiness. Simultaneously, we will be maintaining continuous collaboration with FDA experts to align the product development with regulatory requirements and proper testing so that documentation for FDA approval will be done. With these steps, we aim to address the needs of infant nutrition market and create a meaningful impact by prioritizing sustainability, safety, and profitability. Looking ahead, we plan to expand into adjacent markets such as elderly nutrition, medical foods, and military applications. We will be continuing the R&D for these product development. We also aim to explore global opportunities with regional specific formulations. So these efforts will ensure that our business continues to innovate and adapt to evolving market needs. Thank you.
Great. Nice job. Well done.
Thanks,
Professor. There's so many things to like about this business and this business model, right? So we can repatriate a business that has been expatriated up until now. I mean, a lot of our formula comes from Puerto Rico and places that are off the continent here. What I also like about it is you can regionalize it, so you can actually scale it down. You can reduce your transportation costs. You can control your inputs. Your inputs are relatively light. There's not a lot of complexity here. There's no animals involved, right? So you don't have to worry about all of the supply chain issues and environmental issues that come from harvesting milk animals.
The inherent variability of natural input sources that doesn't exist here.
Because you have almost, 2 or 3 inputs, it seems. Very, very few inputs. It's very limited. So in that sense, you can control the supply chain a lot easier. You can scale it much, much easier. And what I like about it is you can customize it. So maybe today you want to do infant formula. Tomorrow you might want to do a performance drink for athletes or weightlifters or something, high protein. You can scale it and then adjust it depending on what market you want to serve. Right?
I just want to offer many compliments from where you started to where you are now. You have made consistent, great leaps forward in not only your understanding of the space, the technology, but your conveyance of the technology. You were very quickly into your presentation, and I had a very, very thorough and intuitive understanding of the technology space and your potential benefits in there. And I will also compliment, we've brought up many times the issues of the regulatory environment, and you addressed that in unique ways multiple times throughout the presentation. I'm very, very impressed with the evolution of this over time. a lot of potential.
I'd love to hear what Abbott Labs had to say about this, because A, they're down the street, B, this is a big part of their business, C, they're well known for being kind of the single-threaded source for a large amount of baby formula in this country. And D, they dropped the ball pretty significantly with some of their disruptions in the supply chain, causing shortages across the country. So I'd be very curious, did you talk to them or were you going to?
I spoke to someone from Abbott. It was a recruiter though. Honestly, he was just kind of rude, to be quite fair. I don't think he was the appropriate point of contact for this conversation. So yeah, maybe he wasn't the right person to talk to. But I did speak to them about it, but they weren't very responsive.
We have alum there, so you can talk to them. I think they'll be a little less rude. So.
I have one concern, that all this fabulous work and your understanding of this is not going to materialize into a startup, because all of you are bright, understanding, but I hope some of you are going to take this into the next 2-3 steps needed to get the reality that you have laid out. The work you have done, okay, is sometimes of startups in the 2 to 3 year time space in order to get. I particularly like to congratulate you on making your cost analysis understandable and simple enough for the presentation. You hit the nail on the head with that from my point of view. Many of your colleagues, students, tend to use a spreadsheet that puts me to sleep. Okay.
They kept it simple, right? I mean, your audience, even if it's senior people, junior people, they're all going to want simplicity.
Like I have only one concern, that this excellent work isn't going to materialize.
Well, what we can do is put it. What I can do is put a spotlight on the work that has been done by all the teams, right? So I'm going to put it on YouTube. I'm going to get people. I'm going to post it on LinkedIn. I'm going to get at least the MEM community at large, which is more than 800 or so alum, students, faculty. You'll let them be aware of the work you've done. And if there's any interest at all, hopefully they'll reach out to you guys.
There isn't one of the presentations this morning that does not warrant a serious commitment to go on.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Not one.
Right.
And I can absolutely tell you that is rare.
Yes. Well, you've got real problems out there. In every case, you're solving real problems, right? And you're also using real technology that's basically either at the precipice or currently being implemented across, somewhere around the world. You've figured out what the target market is, the beachhead. You've already figured out the financials. You've done all the work that most startups, like you said, might have taken a year or two to figure out.
Well, and many startups can do work that looks a lot like this. But one of the things that I'm most impressed with each of the teams in the lab, you all but proven that there's a large market pull for what you're trying to sell. And a lot of people can come into classes like this, they can get up, they can tell a very compelling story that makes a lot of sense logically and rationally. And then they can try to pivot into the market, and they can realize that even though they have an objective value add, if there's no market pull to match that objective value add, you're not going to gain any traction. And the thing that's most impressive to me is that all of you have put in the time, energy, and effort to find and validate that market pull. And that's really, really impressive.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I totally agree that all the presentations, you've done a fantastic job of getting feedback and bringing that feedback to real life situation, creating a project that, to me, I can see each of them to become a real business that you can go and actually improve.
And I can almost guarantee you, knowing what I know about corporate America, that there are people out there, companies, divisions, right, sectors that are looking at the very things you looked at. Whether you're one step ahead of them or 2 steps behind them, I can't tell you for sure. But there's an opportunity there to kind of align yourself with these companies and say, okay, you've done some work, they're doing some work. That's going to make you attractive to them, whether it's a future employee, a future acquisition target, whatever that circumstance might be.
Well, and just to add on to that, to bring it back to one thing that you said about 2 hours ago, all of these are really great examples. Objective value add plus market pull, right? All of these are great potentials for you to create the position that you want in the space, right? All of you are now industry-leading experts in these particular fields. They're so at the forefront. There aren't people who've been in the space for 5 years. The space hasn't existed for 5 months. So all of these projects represent direct and viable opportunities for you to get in and actually craft the position that you want to occupy in any of these various markets.
I want to advise you not to give up as this being just a class project, and each of you is going to go their own way, do things. I'd like to see you at the core continue, even if you further apart from each other, continue this idea, try to get it somewhere, be persuasive, because you do have potential. All of you projects have.
Yeah, now, Mark and Ian have been around me for 5+ years. I've been in space and heard presentations for the last 25 years. I've never had 6 presentations in a row blow me away like this. At the best, I get 1 out of 20 that measure up to the caliber what you people have generated.
So be proud of what you've done, share it with recruiters, share it with interviews. Frankly, if instead of asking for a job, you should be saying, this is what I can do. This is what I have done as part of a team. And frankly, that's what companies want to see. Not so much what's on your resume per se, what jobs you've held, but what can you do for me today or tomorrow?
If you want to get a job in any one of the markets you've addressed, take your presentation with you. It is 10 times the value of your resume.
Yep.
I agree. And as part of the presentation fermentation, I think the first slide blows me off. I mean, so simple.
Yeah.
The whole concept of very difficult. It shows their understanding that they know ins and outs of market and this technology. And they put it in some simple flowchart, 5 boxes that make me understand that if you take that out to any uneducated person, they know what you're talking about. And that's how you can gain the market to average people who need to buy your product.
And the environmental impact is potentially huge. Wasn't even discussed, but the environmental impact is massive in terms
great job.
Reduced amount of water, reduced amount of land, reduced emissions. I mean, all of it, right? Yeah. I was sitting in a group of faculty that were talking about all these technologies, and masters in biotechnology would have nailed that precision fermentation thing and probably would have had 3 or 4 courses diving deep on the science behind it. But not one of those courses would have dealt with going to market, the business strategy, or any of the technology strategies we've discussed in this class. So, let the word out, right? That, hey, this is a place where you can actually apply some of the learnings from the rest of this building in a way that matters to the rest of the world, right?
Absolutely. All of these projects is a real life, right?
Yep.
Real thing that they can get done. Whereas many other classes, it's not like that's all okay. And things fall apart and these are real stuff.
Yeah, many of these type of technologies, I have to extract the advocacy portion of the presentation. So many of your colleagues are all thrilled with advocating the technology. All of you.
For the technology's sake.
Very effectively.
Yeah.
And stuck to the mission of taking the technology and applying it to a real world need and solution.
And I'd like to kudos to Mark and Yian for really bringing this topic. I mean, if they hadn't brought this topic at the beginning of class, because of what you guys have been selected, but they identified this topic, and I think running this program really well. And this class, I haven't seen the other classes, but I think it's a fantastic job.
Right.
All credit to Mark on that.
I think we should thank the students for the job well done. So let's give everybody a round. If you guys have any inputs for us in terms of what we can do differently next year, we're going to keep offering this every fall. It now has an official number in the system. We've been approved by the curriculum committee. So this is now a permanent part of the curriculum as of 2 days ago when I sat with them. So they were impressed with the course. Now it's official. every fall we'll offer it in a similar format, whether it's Saturdays or Tuesdays, you won't be able to know, but frankly, it's more than just a way to kind of finish your degree. I see this as a way to kind of finish your engineering pursuits, right, in a way that matters to the world, right?
Maybe at the beginning.
Or the beginning.
Yeah, and if you need help convincing academic bureaucrats, let me know.
It didn't take long. I mean, they know what we're doing here. So, all right, have a good break, guys.
As an advisor, we need to know if you added value or not, and what can we do differently.
Yeah, well, they'll fill out CTEX, but if you have anything specific you want to send me, you can send me or Ian an email, and we'll take it from there.
And just one last quick note. I'm really grateful for all of you. I consider all of you peers. I'm grateful to have not only learned alongside you this quarter, but learned from you. And as peers, please never lose my contact information. I'll always be a reference. We can always sit down and have a chat about anything. I'm always here to help however I can in your careers going forward.
I guess it's also quite literally true, because I think effectively you're now all MEM graduates, right? Along with Ian and myself. So congratulations on that as
We
well.
are literal peers now.
Also, thank you, because Saturday mornings has been the highlight of my every week. You guys.
That's because of the donuts and the samosa.
Saturday morning, very great. I mean,
all right, guys.
Don't mind if I use part of your presentation, future talk that I reference your ideas.
All right, guys, we're going to shut it down at this point. Thank you again. Have a good break. And some of you, I'm sure I will see at graduation in a week, right? A week from today. So see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you.